Thank you very much. Welcome to the July 25th, 2017 Selectmen's Meeting in the Selectmen's Chambers at 5 o'clock. This will be a joint meeting with the AFSCME Council 93 and the Board of Selectmen regarding Water Department, and votes may be taken. I would just ask that we call the meeting to order, and roll call, please.
Sue Lucio, present.
Cindy King is present.
Gordon Clark is present. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just announcing that this meeting is being tape recorded, and I have no additions or deletions for this meeting. At this time, I would ask Mr. Kryler if he could take over.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You should each have a copy, a packet of copies of legal opinions that go back some number of years here in town regarding the issue of the, I guess, the place of the Water Department and the Board of Water Commissioners as relates to the town proper, and specifically as relates to lines of authority in the town proper. This comes to our attention right now, again, as a result of some recent correspondence we've received from a gentleman, Attorney Doucette, who writes purportedly on behalf of the Water Department and is taking the position, again, purportedly on behalf of the Board of Water Commissioners and Mr. Rafuse, that the Water Department is autonomous from the Select Board and the town proper. Specifically and most acutely for my concern, and the reason I wanted to bring this to you is the position of water tech falls under an AFSCME union. So the two techs fall under the AFSCME union for the Highway Department. The admin position similarly falls under the AFSCME union for the Highway Department. Most recently, there was a petition circulated, cards signed, and a process through the Division of Labor Relations to create a supervisory union also under AFSCME. And the position of water superintendent was one of the requested positions that ultimately made it through the process and was certified to be a position covered by the AFSCME bargaining unit. We've received a letter, and that's the first document that you have in the stapled packet I gave you, from Mr. Rafuse indicating that he's no longer in the union by virtue of a vote of the Board of Water Commissioners. I think everybody knows that efforts have been being made to try to hold a joint meeting between the Board of Water Commissioners and the Select Board. Dates have been circulated back and forth, and to date, there hasn't been that meeting. My concern specifically, and this is where I'm looking for guidance from the board, is that there are terms and conditions in the contract for the supervisors union that since Mr. Rafuse took the position, that's demonstrated in this February 23rd letter, that he's no longer in the union, that he is in violation of. He's doing so, I believe, in good faith, believing that his water commissioners have the authority to make that determination. The fact remains that they don't. And we have our counsel here this evening who has already opined on this issue a couple of times, and you'll see those letters in your packet. And even beyond and before Mr. Jenkins, other attorneys have also opined on the matter. I think most recently it was Selectman Lucio, when you were on the board, this issue came up about authority to negotiate contracts and who had that authority for terms and conditions of employment, and that letter is also in this packet. I find myself in a box right now because I have been allowing what I know to be violations of the contract to occur, keeping it in a holding pattern pending this joint meeting that has not yet happened. And I don't feel comfortable continuing to go on like that, so we had initially tried to peg tonight as that joint meeting. Mr. Doucette can't make this meeting. I'll note that the Board of Water Commissioners are meeting this evening. They're meeting at 5:30 at their offices, but not here with us. The fact is that one benefit in particular has been being processed via payroll By agreement of Mr. Rafuse and I, the check has been cut separately for that benefit. It's for standby pay, and has been being held. If it were ultimately determined by somebody that he's entitled to it, those checks are there. They're dated for the times that he submitted for them, and that if that's the direction, then those checks would be given to him. I think quite the opposite. It's a benefit that he negotiated for during the contract and was not ultimately agreed to in the contract. Therefore, he's not entitled to it. My concern that I expressed to Paul was that when he submits a payroll with that on it, knowing it's a benefit that he's not entitled to, that it opens him up to having submitted a false payroll. The bigger issue, I thought, was if he actually received the money. So that's why I had asked him to agree to not take the money until we had resolution. The second issue is the use of a vehicle for personal use and after-hour use. That was also not negotiated. It was expressly discussed in the contract, but not ultimately included in the final document. So I don't want to go any further in allowing a knowing violation of the contract. So I wanted to, I'd hoped that there would be the joint meeting tonight. It's not, but I need to get some direction from the board as to whether I should continue to go on the path that I'm on, or if I should enforce the contract. My strong feeling is that I should enforce the contract, but I would defer to you if you suggest otherwise. I've also received a document from two union members who are also on the bargaining committee in the form of a grievance. It's very unusual in my experience to get a grievance from one or many union members against one of their own, but that's reflective of some of the, I think some of the ill will that's being created here. I know that one of those members is in the audience this evening if you had any questions of him. We do have our counsel here to speak to any of the issues you may have regarding the issue of the lines of authority or accountability for terms and conditions. In one of the letters that David had written earlier that's provided in your packet, and this would be something I think it would be something that I'd love to hear David on specifically, but back when police departments were first unionizing, the issue very much like this came up, but with police chiefs. Boards of selectmen had the ability now through collective bargaining to set schedules and hours and terms and conditions, and chiefs who had historically had that challenged it. Ultimately, there are some cases, and the Labor Relations Commission came down with the fact that the select board are the body politic. They are the chief executives that are authorized under Chapter 150E to negotiate. That has since extended out, and David could speak to that, and I'll stop talking, to boards and commissions, electric light companies, which have elected boards, water commissions, and the like. So for that history, I could go to David.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'll take it back just a little bit further, only about 100 years or so ago. The water commissioners were established by a special act of the legislature, and I did see that you have it in your package. It's Chapter 391 of the Acts of 1920. And that act, which was later accepted at town meeting, established the water commissioners and established their authority. It reads sort of like the general statutes that create other bodies, and it reads like the authority granted to certain elected officials like highway surveyors. Many of the towns that we represent have highway surveyors who are responsible for the layout and maintenance of the roads, much in the same way that the commissioners are given responsibility for maintaining the water here. The Act, in my opinion, does not create a separate legal entity, and the Act, unlike some others, doesn't give the specific right to either retain employees or retain counsel, as some other cases or other statutes do. The next event that happened with regard to this was in January of 2002. Kopelman and Page at the time was asked to give an opinion as to whether or not the Water Department had the authority to hire independent counsel. And Attorney Everett Martyr at the time, on January 24th, 2002, issued an opinion letter to the town opining that the Water Department did not have authority to hire independent counsel. That was supported at the time by two cases that then existed, one coming out of Mattapoisett and the other one coming out of Wellesley. In Mattapoisett, as I recall, the FinCom wanted to hire independent counsel, and in the Wellesley case, the Board of Public Works wanted to hire independent counsel. Since that time, there's been one further case at the Superior Court level, which comes out of the town of Webster, which followed the Mattapoisett and the Wellesley cases. About that same time, the town put a lot of work into the formulation of personnel policies and procedures, as I recall, and one of the groups that signed off on those personnel policies was the Water Commissioners. That led to, I think, my first opinion, which was in June of 2011, on the issue of who had the authority to extend wage increases to employees of the Water Department. That opinion was on June 13th, 2011, and it's a longish opinion of 8 pages that essentially concludes that the appointing authority for employees of the Water Department rests with the Board of Selectmen, and I further gave the opinion that at the time, authority for effectuating changes in wages or compensation rested with the board and the town administrator under the classification plan. I think it's important to, if we jump ahead just a little bit, at the time that this opinion was written, these employees were subject to the classification plan and not part of a collective bargaining unit. So we then went forward to 2014, and at about that time, the AFSCME union had filed a petition for recognition of certain town employees that included employees of the Water Department. My recollection is that the petition was filed at the Department of Labor Relations, and the typical advice that I would give a town in that circumstance would be to try to negotiate a voluntary recognition. There are certain risks that would be associated with going to the DLR. The DLR could include more employees than the union asked for, and the process is cumbersome. So the town and AFSCME entered into some negotiations that I would say were spirited. They went on a while, but at the end of the day, the town and the union agreed on the positions that would be included in the AFSCME unit. And it's also important to say that the recognition covers positions, not individual people. So as part of that process, the Board of Selectmen and AFSCME entered into a formal written agreement, and I thought I had it in my folder, but I don't, with a voluntary recognition. The DLR regulations require that that recognition be posted for a period of 20 days in order to give anybody the opportunity to object to the posting. So that posting occurred, and AFSCME was recognized as the bargaining agent. AFSCME was not certified by the DLR. This was a voluntary recognition. In April of 2014, I was asked to give an opinion specifically with regard to the legality of including water department employee in what I would call a comprehensive unit. This was a unit that went across town lines. So I gave my opinion on April 22, 2014, and I cited case law that suggested that individual departments can't exclude themselves from this process, that under the provisions of Chapter 150E, that the selectmen are the appointing authority for town employees. I thought that that was consistent with the 2011 opinion that I had previously given. And at the end of that opinion, I concluded that the Board of Selectmen was the proper bargaining agent for purpose of collective bargaining, and the Board of Water Commissioners did not have, was not a public employer within the meaning of Chapter 150E. So thereafter, the town negotiated an agreement with AFSCME. I think Mr. Refuse was part of the bargaining team representing
That's correct.
the union. I did not participate in that process at all. That's the way it should be. The town administrator and the union negotiated that agreement, and we heard nothing. The next I heard was I had received letters from Attorney Doucette in which he had an opinion as to the status of the water commissioners. We differed respectfully with that opinion. The town meeting accepted Chapter 41, Section 69B at the most recent town meeting. The opinions that I was giving Attorney Doucette preceded that vote of the acceptance of the statute. But I would say now that I don't think that the acceptance of Section 69B would change my opinion. I still believe that the Board of Selectmen are the employer under 150E, and that the board has the ability to collectively bargain with the union with respect to water department employees. And here we are tonight.
Thank you for helping us understand this complex issue, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Crowley, this time I'm looking for guidance. Would you think it'd be appropriate now or after the selectmen ask any questions if they have to ask Mr. LaChapelle if he would like to comment now and also be welcome later? Would this be a good time for him to speak? Or?
Sure.
All right, I'm just trying to, so I'm fair. So at this time, and I will give you a chance after we speak if you have any rebuttal.
Right. I think the issue is pretty well settled as far as the voluntary recognition agreement, which stipulates that the water superintendent position is part of the union. We have a collective bargaining agreement, under which the recognition clause covers that position. So from the union's perspective, Mr. Rayfuse's position is a union position.
If I could just ask a couple, I might know, but I don't know what my two fellow members know for information, because I was there during this, so.
Sure.
What my questions, I know the answers, but what I'm trying to do is what I know I try to share with the board members. Because only if we all know what's going on can we make whatever independent decisions we make. So I would just ask you, is that was Mr. Rayfuse, which he's entitled to, actively part of forming the supervisors union?
I believe so. I was
Okay,
not,
okay.
I can't speak to that directly. I was not part of
Okay,
this
then I will ask
process,
you-
but from what I understand, he was part of bringing.
Okay, and that's his right,
AFSCME
and we
to the
welcome
town.
that, but, so he willingly became part of this union?
From what I understand, I can't speak to that actually
Right.
myself having personal knowledge of that, but from what I understand,
Okay.
that's what
And
transpired.
that'd be a fair assessment. Thank you for that. The next question I have is, was Mr. Rayfuse part of the negotiating team where we sat here and for a lot of hard work, and expense to the town, and expense to the union, and multiple hours. But we bargained in good faith, back and forth, and town's assets were spent to make sure that you had a fair contract with the people represented, that your employees were. And Mr. Rayfuse was part of that.
He was a member of the bargaining team.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, if you have nothing more, Mr. Kryler, at this time?
I'm just looking for guidance. that's all.
Okay, and Sue, do you have any questions?
I guess my question, if I may, is for Mr. Jenkins.
Absolutely.
Could you move the microphone for you?
My question is for Mr. Jenkins, please.
Absolutely.
Mr. Jenkins, can you help me understand, I know a few years ago, the Water Department brought to town meeting for a vote whether or not we wanted a separate water district, okay? And that got turned
Right,
down.
okay.
Can you explain the difference between prior to April, or prior to when we did the Chapter 4169B, okay, so this latest town meeting approval, what is the difference between what we had before this most recent vote and what we have after that vote? What did that vote do that made it different?
And I don't mean to be flip.
That's okay.
I don't think that there's any difference, to be perfectly candid with you. I think that the power and authority of the water commissioners before that vote is exactly the same as the power and authority of the commissioners after that vote. And I think that you raise a really good point, because, see, I would compare a regional water district to like a regional dispatch district. So when a regional water district or a regional dispatch district are set up, they're set up as separate legal entities. Now, I don't know whether or not your dispatchers are going that way here. Many are. I have a lot of communities up on the North Shore where the town employees transferred to the region, and the regional district is now negotiating collective bargaining agreements on their behalf. And I think a regional water district would have been the same thing. I had a case in Westport, Massachusetts, where there was an elected highway surveyor in a statute that is similar to 96B. His statute says he's responsible for the roads. This statute says the commissioners are responsible for the water. Highway surveyor terminated an employee, and the Board of Selectmen reinstated him. And the highway surveyor filed an action in Superior Court challenging the action of the Board of Selectmen. And the Superior Court held, now under Chapter 150E, it's the selectmen who have the authority to bargain with employees. That yes, the surveyor sets the roads and decides how they're going to be built, but control over the employees rests with the board, and ruled against the surveyor. So that's the sort of way I see this. Now, if the original 1920 Act said there is hereby established a separate legal entity that can sue and be sued and, have that sort of legal terminology, then it would be a different situation. And the other thing, too, is that there's almost a past practice here, because I'm sure that the opinions that you were giving when I gave the prior board, those opinions are circulated, I'm sure. And there was never a challenge to any of those, never a formal challenge, I would say. I don't know if people agreed or disagreed. So the understanding of I would say the parties was that this was sort of the law of the land, and there was never a contest until the union was formed, and I'm not quite sure where it went off the tracks, but there was almost in agreement by silence that this is the way the law required.
Sure, so. You have 1 minute. Bobby, can you hear Sue now?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you.
I'm remembering that when the folks at the water department wanted to join the highway union, that caused a little bit of angst back and forth, because I think the water department was looking at it as, well, wait a minute, you know, we're not involved in the negotiations, but it ends up part of our budget. You know, however much you grant to them becomes part of our budget. And I think at the time, they actually wanted to be part, you know, they wanted to do the negotiations. But we had this situation where some of the employees work for the water department, who's an elected board. And we're the elected board that does the negotiations with the highway department folks. They wanted to join the highway union. So, or that was the solution anyway. But I remember us talking about it. I remember getting an opinion from you as well. And the way that I remember us kind of settling on it was, we're negotiating as a board with the union, you know, so the town administrator and/or the Board of Selectmen, we negotiate with the union. And then, however that comes out, ends up being part of the budgets that we negotiated for. So it goes back to the highway department, hey, Ed, this is what you want to put in your salary account to cover these folks, and same thing to the water department. So it was pretty clear cut. We also tried to be extremely respectful of each other in terms of how much we were very careful, and I think the TA was very careful, as is Jim, not to kind of say, well, you need to this or you need to that, that we aren't the boss of the water department. They're the experts on the water stuff. And we didn't want them to misconstrue anything we did that way. It was for things like the administration, really. It's the accounting, the writing the checks. You know, they don't have their own separate accountant, although I think they now give us a prorated amount for those kinds of services that we provide for them. But it all just kind of worked out, and I guess I'm looking at it now and saying, why isn't this still working? It's pretty clear to me that it's a bargaining unit. So you deal with the bargaining unit, it gets settled, and it goes back to the, you know, so why are we arguing about it?
Well, I'm going to let other people speak, but I'll just say quickly here is, it was settled for collective bargaining. We sat down, we came to a contract, and you need to follow the law and follow the rules of that contract. That's what we're here about, not about feeling good about each other. We always try to do that. We follow the law, we negotiate in good faith, we have a contract. The contract is not being followed. And I appreciate everyone has their own style, and that's your style, and everyone has a style, and that's great. Yes, go ahead.
I think to your point, Sue, I don't know that it was ever resolved, because this has been a perennial flare-up. If you look back 02, 11, 14, and now 17, we're having the same issue come up, and different things have been the flashpoint for it. This is the most recent is it's now collective bargaining. The one before it was, are they in the personnel policies or not? So I don't know that it's ever been resolved. I think it flares, the same legal authority is cited, the same cases are cited, people go back to their respective corners, and people just do their business, and then it flares on the next point. I don't know that, I mean, I don't see that it's ever been resolved.
Okay, may I?
Well, at this point, I'm just going to go to Cindy, then I promise I'll come back to you, but I want to have an equal discussion here. That's all, but I will say this, thank you for your first question, and to Mr. Jenkins. I got, sometimes hard to do with me, I got some more insight into the thing here, so I understand a little bit better. So, Sue, your first initial question helped me very much, and thank you for that. And to get a little equal time here, would you like to say something, Cindy?
I have two questions, one for David and one for the union attorney. And I want to jump into the weeds a little bit. I don't know if the answers I can ask
Maybe
or
they
get
can
the
help us.
answers. But I'm going to jump into the water department has, I'll say allegedly, hired their own attorney. And that's part of the problem, the discussion that we've been having about who's authorized to do that. And where we're having all these conversations about who's in charge of the water department, and as well as the contract problems and whatnot. Where are we with talking to that attorney? Where does that attorney come in for us? And my small a and b questions after that are, how is this going to be paid for? How is that attorney going to be compensated? And other than just saying it's not by us, but because at some point, somebody's got to pay him, or maybe he's going to be a volunteer, I don't know. But I'd like to know what's our legal opinion on, since I'm a water taker as well as, so am I going to pay for it on that end, or am I going to pay for it as a selectman and voter?
With your leave here, I was going to ask the same question.
Okay.
And so I'm going to ask Mr. Jenkins, Mr. Kryler that. Could I just add a little frame to that, so I don't have to
Sure.
re-ask it? If that's all with you, I don't mean to take over your
Sure.
question.
Nope.
But Cindy's question, and the only thing I will say is I have here marked March 16, 2017, in your booklets there from, let's see who it's from. It's from Mr. Doucette. It states on March 7, 2017, that he was already hired by the water commissioners.
Mr. Chair, point of order, please.
Yes, what is it?
Because we're supposed to just be discussing the union right now.
And Mr. Doucette is asking for standing with the union, so I think that this is part
Well,
of the deal.
My concern is this. There's more than one thing going on, and I grant you that.
That happens a lot.
Okay? I grant you that. So one of the issues, and I have the same questions that Cindy has.
All right.
But this particular meeting,
It's not a meeting, it's a letter saying that he's representing them,
no, our meeting tonight was
Yes.
called to discuss the union.
right?
And
So
what the union
You just said
thought.
that you agree with Cindy's question. All I'm doing is giving a date that when he said he was hired. That's all. So
Okay. But I don't think that the question is pertinent to this particular agenda.
Well,
Okay, I think-
Are you
I think-
comfortable with me asking that, Cindy?
Well, if I can respond
I'll let
to
you- I'll-
my opinion,
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
David can answer it as a legal opinion in a moment, but I'm seeing that
Are we responsible?
this attorney is saying that Paul's not in the union.
Right, 100%.
So, and we're talking about the
Paul in the
union.
union.
So, and that's the question, is Paul in the union? And we have to debate, well, I mean,
And does
I don't
this-
think there's anybody in this room that, well, maybe, I don't know what Sue feels, but that he's in the union and we have a violation of the contract, we even
And
have
all I'm trying to
grievance
say
here,
is, as you are,
That-
does this attorney have standing, and are we responsible for his bills? Simple as that.
which is part of,
Which is part of saying he's representing them.
and how do we proceed? I mean,
Yes.
if we're not recognizing him,
That's right.
if to make it a union, to make it more effective, rather than just worried about the bill, but I am worried about the bill, but should we recognize him or not recognize him, and how should we be proceeding with this union question about an attorney who's claiming to be representing somebody that if somebody can answer the question, can he legally
So I would ask
represent the water commissioner?
Mr. Kryler, Mr. Jenkins, I don't matter what order, but just more answer Cindy's question, please.
David can answer the legal. I can tell you what we've done. What we've done is when the invitations have gone out for joint meetings, I have expressly written that the Board of Selectmen are not recommending, I'd have to pull it to look at the exact language, but recommending or authorizing, that the Water Department bring counsel, because only you can authorize counsel. So I've been very cautious to make that clear in writing each time I've communicated on the joint meetings.
Okay, David, do you have anything to add?
Well, in my initial presentation, I cited 3 cases that say it's the Board of Selectmen who has the authority
Okay.
to hire counsel. Now, who's going to pay him, I don't know
Are we?
And again, I really do think that there is a point, though. You have to focus, because you only have a certain amount of energy and time.
I agree with that.
You need to focus on how we're going to handle the union.
And I agree with that. The only thing is I want to know is that, should we consider that Mr. Doucette has standing or not here?
Well,
Can I let David, I'll come to
there's
this,
gonna
so
be a joint
please,
meeting.
everyone will get fair time.
There's going to be a joint meeting, and everybody can have their say
Okay.
on that issue,
All
I
right,
think.
are you happy with that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any other questions before I go back to
That's
Sue?
why I said, I thought, might have been going too deep into the weeds.
All right, okay.
My other question, I've kind of lost track of which direction I was going with it, is towards the union. Yeah, apparently there's some grievances. I don't know if I can even ask this, but is there a place where we are with those grievances? Are you representing them? Are you involved with that already, or?
I've ignored them. That's where we are.
Oh,
We're basically, I would say, in abeyance. Right now, we're kind of pending resolution of this matter. You know, my goal as council and as representative of AFSCME is to represent everyone fully and fairly. That's 100% my intention. So whatever Mr. Rayfuse is entitled under the any sort of benefits he's entitled to under the collective bargaining agreement, we will fight for and we will push to ensure that he receives those. To any extent that there are actions by him or any employee outside of the confines of the agreement, you know, we will take them as they come, kind of do a fact-based analysis and see if there's any merit to them. So that's pretty much the answer only answer I can give you right now, is that everyone is the same. We take every person, we don't cherry pick cases, we don't cherry pick grievances, we don't, do things differently because of a person's name or if their
Alright.
actions outside of the agreement.
But specifically to the point, the two issues, standby pay and take-home use of the vehicle, were subjects of discussion at the table.
Agreed.
And were not subsequently benefits that were granted in the end document.
Agreed. So I guess my point would be that I would not want to take a position that would be adverse to a member, but if there's contract language that's explicit, that the town has the right to enforce that contract language.
Thank you. I'm going to go, if it's all right with you, Cindy? Thank you for being patient, Sue. Or do you have any questions?
Having heard everything, I think, regarding what you're saying about the contract, what Mr. Jenkins is saying about a number of opinions, and just having listened to this, I don't see how I, as a board member, can do anything but say, I'm sorry, I believe that Paul is a member of the union, and that in good faith, he negotiated as part of that union. The legal opinions that we have so far from our attorney, who we have hired to represent the town and to represent us in our union negotiations as well, if we need that, is saying this is a valid union contract, and I feel as though anything above and beyond what is in that contract, that position just does not have that coming to them. It would not be fair to the other members of the union. It would not be us, going forward in good faith. Now, if in the near future, I hope we have a meeting, and if they want to invite their attorney, that's fine, because they're going to have to show us why.
Show us why or what?
If it's different than what we're saying.
I'm trying to follow you, to be fair.
Yeah, if it's different than what I'm saying.
Right,
I mean,
but-
that's my opinion.
But here's the only problem with that, and please correct me, the three professionals I have here, is this is a settled collective bargaining. They
No,
have-
I
So they
understand
can't come
that.
in and say, we want to discuss
Oh,
it.
no, I don't mean the
So other
contract.
issues, I welcome them
No, I mean
to come
like,
anytime.
what's the authority of the water commissioners versus
Right.
the selectmen's authority, and what, and on that vein, what we're supposed to
That's
talk about
and
at another
I'm going to come right back to you, but I lose my thought here. Could I ask, with the board's permission, that in an effort to, not to keep spinning our wheels here, that everything that Mr. Jenkins has presented to us, which was very compelling, gets forwarded to the water commissioners. More to the commissioners than to Mr. Rayfuse, not against Mr. Rayfuse, but we need to deal with the water commissioners. All right, if you could forward everything, and maybe, and if they watch this tape, maybe I learned some stuff here, and I think Sue and Cindy listen very well, and I appreciate that. But the facts are the facts.
I mean, in terms of Mr. Kreidler wanting direction from the board, I am willing to make a motion that,
Well, can I just, before we go forward, just out of respect to Cindy, please, all right? Do you have anything, Cindy, before we start doing that? Before you want to add, before we go?
I'm happy to let Sue say what she wants to put in there.
I'm not
If she doesn't
making the
cover some
motion.
of the things that are in my head, I might want to amend
All
it.
right.
yeah, I'm not
We're on the
making.
same page.
I'm not making a motion.
All I'm trying to do...
I thought you said you were making.
No, I'm saying I'm
Well, you
willing
did say
to.
you were willing to make it.
Oh,
So here's the deal, is it's all clarification, so that's my job sometimes, is to make sure everyone gets a fair shot here, but we still maintain with the law and with the proper procedure. So all I'm saying is, now I'm going back to Sue, she's gonna have a talk about a motion, okay? Thank you. Appreciate your patience.
I'm willing to make a motion to direct the town administrator to comply with the contract and nothing outside of the contract, and that we, as a board, are making a statement that we believe that the superintendent is part of the union until we're shown otherwise.
and I think words to say that we're affirming the negotiated agreement that we've
That
already
sounds
made,
good too.
as well as notifying
Right.
the parties that are not in compliance with the contract, that the contract will be enforced, and we are going to take any action necessary in order to enforce the contract that we've already negotiated in good faith.
I agree 100% with your two thoughts here. I'm all about language, especially since...
Yeah,
All right.
David's working on it.
All right. That's fine. No, only because I have to tell you, I probably have 400 hours, Mr. Kryler voucher this, where I sat here with all the union contracts, and David was there too.
I'll stall.
And, no, you don't have to stall, this is important knowledge, so you know the
think
work
David
that...
gets what we
Okay,
need.
David and Mr. LaPel, I'm sorry, calling you David, we worked hard together.
Perfectly fine.
And we were fair. But the point is, we didn't have, which is totally unusual in negotiations, we didn't have one contract that resembled the other contract. And it's, you know what I'm saying, it wasn't, and I think we all did a good job so that there was consistency through the whole thing. So that's why I'm such a stickler on language, because language matters. All right, so that's, and I learned from you, and I learned from Mr. Kryler in that process, so thank you both for that. So my person I learned the most from over here is working on it. The only thing I would ask Mr. Jenkins's wisdom as he's typing is that I would want it to be immediate and also include compensation and any use of vehicles. That would be the only thing I would want. I'll leave that to professionals now, and would it be...
Mr. Chair, could it be as simple for both Cindy and Sue? Move to direct the town administrator to reaffirm and enforce the terms of the existing collective bargaining agreement between the parties.
I would hold on that, because I see someone writing really hard over
No,
there.
it's, well,
Oh, it's-
yours is shorter. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to affirm the collective bargaining agreement between the town and ASME supervisory unit, and authorize the TA to take such action as is necessary to enforce the terms of the agreement.
Better.
All right, and would that be taken as immediate?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So,
And to inform the Board of Water Commissioners.
I don't know if that's necessary. Well, it's asked,
Well, that's, you know, if
I'm just
part of
asking.
the enforcement is to inform.
okay, of this action.
Right.
Including.
Is it okay for me to speak now?
Of course it is.
Because
I get lost without you.
I believe I had told the attorney that there's a couple of things going on here. The water commissioners are agents of the town, and they're directly dealing with the unionized employee, which is an unfair labor practice charge. So,
Who we notify them to cease
no,
and desist?
and David and I have spoken about
Thank
that.
you.
So,
At your level, thank you.
yeah, so that notification, I think, would be part of the whole process, and hopefully it will be amicable, and we can
I follow you.
get back to where we were.
I appreciate that.
May I just say something, is that my goal is to avoid embroiling the union in any sort of litigation, so if we could resolve this all on the same page, I think that would be the best
And I think
for
in the
everybody.
past, we've always sort of come to a middle ground and being fair. I believe that's how we've dealt with each other. And thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Lachelle.
I think Sue has something to add.
And thank you for bringing me back to this.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion then, if I may.
Can I just ask one question? I just want sorry.
I'm almost ready to make the motion.
I know, yeah, and you got it. I mean, we just had some chit chat, that even the chit chat about, attorneys need to talk to one another with the water commissioners in order to be clear that, to avoid the litigation, to avoid everything, we don't have to have another vote, that all those conversations and actions between, whether it's our legal counsel, the union attorney, or whoever, all those things are authorized by this motion, that we mean that in that, okay. All right.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to affirm is
Sister
the
Fisher
word.
would be very angry with me if she saw my writing.
Yes, she would. To affirm the collective bargaining agreement between the town and AFSCME
Supervisory unit.
supervisory unit.
We could do a duet.
Yeah, I know.
Can we put it as read by Mr. Jenkins? That might be easier.
And to,
I'm in healthcare, I can read
Let me
that.
read
Unit.
it, but these are your words. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to affirm the collective bargaining agreement between the town and ASME supervisory unit, and to authorize the town administrator to take such action as is necessary to enforce the terms of the agreement, including communication to the Board of Water Commissioners.
that's
Do I
what
have-
I said.
Thank you. Do we have a
Second.
second? Motion's been made in second. All in favor? Aye, unanimous. Before we adjourn from this meeting, I would just like to take this time to thank Mr. Kryler,
Thank you, Dave.
Attorney David LaChapelle, and Attorney David Jenkins, back from the
Great Northland.
Great Northland, and he's welcome back. And I would also like to thank Cindy King and Sue Lizio for giving the effort that's necessary to understand these complex issues. I would take a motion to adjourn, and we'll be back in 10 minutes, but anyway.
Are we adjourning or?
Yeah, it's two separate
Okay,
postings.
okay. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion's been made and moved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. Thank you, folks, and we'll be back
Basically
in
a 10-minute recess.
10-minute recess, or whatever it is.
Or-
Welcome, folks, to the July 25th, 2017 Selectmen's Meetings in the Selectmen Chambers at 272 Main Street. This is the 6 o'clock meeting. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order and roll call.
Sue Lizio present.
Cindy King is present.
Gordon Clark present. Would you join me, please, in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
1.3, I'll announce that this meeting is being tape recorded. Is there anyone else in here tape recorded, just to let the chair know? No at this time, all right, thank you. Number I-4, chairman's additions or deletions. I think, Jim, do you have the additions? I don't have it right here. I'm looking for it. we're adding,
What did we add?
Yes, it's that top one right there.
this here?
And that's it.
Okay, and what number are we going to call that? F46?
It's 4.6.
Okay, we're going to add 4.6 to Sue and,
Is that this one?
yes, it is. And it says 4.6 right there. Okay, you have that too? Okay.
Somewhere.
So we're adding 4.6 to it, and that'll be FY18 material bid contract extension recommendations. Give me a second here. At this time, we're going to move to appointments and hearings. 2.1, 6:05, we're a little early, but that's all right. Karen Hill from the Conservation Commission, Squanicook River cleanup. If you want to come up and join us or stay there. Harley, can you get them good from right there, hear them and everything?
Yes, sure.
Okay. You're welcome to come
Oh,
up. and-
actually, if you could adjust the microphone.
All right, I noticed that we also have the chairman, I believe, of the
Yes.
council. Could you just sit down so people out there know that you're here?
Mike Turgeon.
Thank you very much. And at this time, once we all set, could you just give us an update, please?
Well, we're here actually to ask the selectmen formally to provide town services for us during the Squanicook River cleanup. Fire and police and emergency personnel and whatever other services we could get, like a highway, possibly if we have something large to pull out. Anything else?
I think that's it. Just, it's mostly for safety purposes.
All right, so I'm going to go to Mr. Kryland and to members of the board, and then we'll come back, because I would like you to explain all the great stuff you guys are doing after, okay?
Yep.
So, do you have anything to say on this, Mr. Kryland?
Very briefly, at the meeting 2 weeks ago up at Mr. Hussey's barn, the presentation was made regarding the Squanicook cleanup, the section that's being cleaned, the permitting that's in place to do so. And one of the questions was whether or not, from a public safety perspective, police and fire services could be provided, coordinated, such that whether we have an EMT that's also a paddler, I know we have a couple, that might want to participate in the event with their bag with them, so if somebody is down in the middle of a stretch of the water and you know, they get a cut or something goes on, that we have EMT on site. Make certain that we're coordinating with the fire department, EMT specifically, so they know that people are out there, how many are out there, where they're going to be. So obviously, we're going to do everything we can, because it's a town, technically, the town signed the application.
Right.
You know, to try to get the local part made official. So my hope would be that the board would support doing anything we can to assist this.
Sue? Do you have any questions? or-
I'm good with it. I just don't know if everybody is aware of what you're doing.
Well, I'm gonna, after we do this,
Okay.
I'm going to come back and ask for a presentation, but that's a valid point, thank you.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I know I was at that meeting a couple weeks ago, but I'm just wondering, does the highway know that you want them? And does
Well-
everybody know you want their services?
They were actually there, if I
Yeah.
could intercede.
Oh, okay.
Remember, yeah,
I
Ed
just,
was there.
yeah.
okay.
Yes, Ed
Okay.
was there, the chief was there, and it
If
was...
it's your wish, we'll coordinate all that. We'll
Oh, sure, I know, but it's just this coming, it's in like 3 days.
All right, so
Sure we can.
I would, if there's no more questions, then I'm going to come back. If you could just let the people
Yes.
out there know what's going on. It's actually very remarkable.
Looking forward to it.
But before we do that, just
I
to
wish
get
I had
this,
the
the housekeeping out of the way,
presentation,
I
but
would entertain a motion to empower, something along whatever sewer, something think of empower the town administrator to use all town assets to assist in this endeavor. So whatever, does that make sense to you, Sue, Cindy?
Yes.
Would you like a motion now?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
I move that we authorize the town administrator to coordinate any kinds of public safety services that are necessary to support the Squanicook cleanup efforts.
Does that cover it?
Well, second.
Okay. Motion's been made second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
All right. Let the record show it's unanimous. At this time, I would go back to the conservation. If you could give us just a quick overview of what you're doing.
Well, the state, Mass Fisheries and Wildlife, has given us a permit to clean up roughly from the Stone Bridge in West Townsend to just about Black Rock They explain it's DCR, but nobody knows where that is, so I say Black Rock. And we've gone out and geolocated all the snags on the river. I can give you a map.
Give it to Sue, I actually saw
Okay.
one. And is that all right with you?
It's broken in 2 sections here. This is the Stone Bridge, this is Rossback Bridge, and then again, we have Rossback Bridge down to Black Rock. All of these are snags that look very similar to that. The state's allowing us to go in and cut out enough of those snag so that we can allow the passage of a canoe or a kayak, so it's passable. We then have to take the debris and lash it to the banks, because that's going to help create habitat and maintain the bank from erosion. So we're looking for volunteers and donations to help with that, because we have to buy the rope. We need a biodegradable bar oil to work in the river. We want to feed our crew. That, you know, we have you stuck out there in the middle of the river. We should at least provide something for you. Besides a wet day.
Fishing pool.
Yeah. So that's our project, and we have 5 weekends planned. It's, just so I make sure I get my dates right, July 29th, which is this Saturday, August 5th, August 12th, August 19th, and the 26th. They're all Saturdays in August. We'll meet here at Town Hall. We'll have a little brief safety discussion and kind of a environmental discussion. Then we'll mosey on down to the river and start cutting away. We'll break for lunch, and day will be done at 4. We're going to start at Rossback's Bridge and work our way towards Black Rock, because that's the worst section first. We figured we'd tackle that. If our permit runs out the end of October, so if we don't get the first half done in those 5 days, we as a commission feel we can handle the remaining portion.
Thank
We
you.
have recently, I believe, gotten Mike approved as a verbal approval for a wildlife specialist, because we have to have at least one on site, which is Nick. We felt we needed a second one as a backup, but 2, that means we can operate 2 crews instead of just 1. So hopefully we can get it cleared up faster that way. Did I leave anything out?
I think that's it.
Oh, well, actually, we have had some donations. I do want to mention this. The wonderful citizens of Townsend have donated a total of $248, plain old cash. We've been selling these water bottles for $10.
Which is still available.
They're still available. That is not included in the cash donation thing, but several businesses in town have donated generously. Patriot Pizza, Benjamin Builders, Harbor Auto Body, Apple Meadow, Townsend Ford, Delaney's, Hannaford's, Shepherd's, and the Evening Sun Fly Shop in Pepperell.
If I could, not to interrupt you, but I lose track, I'm gonna go to Sue in a second here, but if I don't, when this is successfully concluded, could you come back and give us a final report, what we achieved, and at that time, maybe we can give some proclamations to some special people too.
I'm sure there'll be more donations coming. We
we'll
are
acknowledge them all at the end, if that's okay.
documenting, we are going to document the work we're doing.
Awesome.
So,
And then if the wild and scenic river, if the Squanicook is accepted as a wild and scenic river, we're hoping to get help from, or Nashua River Watershed Association will be helping us. They're using this to help formulate a plan for future cleanups, and that would all be, and then we would have access to grant monies.
Federal
through-
money.
through that. For
We're just gonna,
future work.
if you don't mind, just that we gotta move on to a couple other things here, and we're gonna have you back, I promise you, all right?
Well,
Okay, one more thing, sure.
can we ask that you discuss, was it 5.1 while we're here, or is that too much?
What is 5.1?
It has to do with our agent who's
Yes,
leaving
if-
us.
I'll tell you what, I'll make a compromise with you. If you let me move through these people,
Yep.
I'll ask the board if we can do that, all right?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, thank you. Sue, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good. If people want to volunteer, what time again?
It starts at 8. We're directing them
Saturday.
to, yeah, we have a link to the Stewardship Network, which is a network you can sign up for. They're an environmental advocacy group. They help people coordinate stuff like this. So That's really where it would be nice if you could sign up, because it tells you all kinds of information.
And where is that link available, or what is the website?
It's on Townsend's website, it was, at least it's
Okay.
supposed to be, but it's also on these flyers that I've been leaving around pretty much everywhere.
Okay, so people can go to the website, the
Yes.
Townsend website, and find the
Yeah, our
link?
other contact was
Okay.
Nick,
Okay.
so,
Okay,
So,
so
my only, what time on Saturday, you have the start
Start
time is
here at 8.
8, so here at 8 o'clock
Yes.
for the class, basically, and then
Yep.
disperse, okay.
And do people need their own canoe or anything like that?
we have some canoes, we are asking if you're gonna bring a canoe, let us know so we can evaluate how many canoes we have, or, you know, if we have enough.
And the fly shop
Yes,
in Pepperell has offered 15 sets of waders to lend out and...
And to use
and
those more than
launchers.
canoes.
Right, so if you go to them and let them know that you want to do the work, first 15 people to ask for them will probably get them.
Okay, thank you. What I'm going to do at this time is, for Sue and Cindy, I've asked the town administrator, hopefully right after the meeting's done, to copy the packet you gave us, so we'll have that, and we'll get that one back to you, if that's
oh, do you want all a copy? I have.
okay, that's fine, but I just like
I have-
always to share everything.
I have plenty of copies.
All right, thanks.
These are what I hand out to the businesses in town.
All right, that's great. It's just that whatever one of us gets, I like to make sure that we all have a shot at it. Thank you.
And hopefully I stapled them all correctly, somewhere upside down.
With the, I don't think it'd be a problem, but I would ask if Sue or Cindy have a problem with us, to help these people give all the time, that we take 5.1 out of order, is that okay?
Yeah.
No objection.
Okay, Mr. Kryler, could you address 5.1, which is town minister, no?
Oh,
Yes, it
sorry.
is.
Yes, it is.
Our conservation agent, Nick Welko, has been offered and has accepted the position of conservation agent in our neighboring town of Groton. The position there is full-time, the position here is not. The position there pays quite well, the position here, not as well. It's a big loss for us. It's wonderful for him and his family, but it's going to be a difficult position to fill again. What we're hoping for is, because Nick was involved very much, on the ground level of the Squanicook cleanup, is to get the board's okay on having Nick back on a per diem basis to continue to assist. Obviously, he's willing to volunteer. We're not interested in asking that he volunteer, particularly when he'll be starting a new job, and he's got a family. So if we can just get your authorization to take his current rate of pay and do a per diem for the days that he helps out on the cleanup. The reason it's particularly important, as they touched on, we need to have a certified environmental monitor in the river for wildlife and habitat issues, and Nick is one of those guys. If Mike's comes through, which we expect it will by the end of the week here, we'll be allowed 2 crews out there. So it's important that we have someone like Nick. So if it meets your approval, a note of thanks, and accept of resignation with regret, and authorization for us to allow him to come back per diem for the Squanicook cleanup.
Sue?
Do you want a motion?
Well, just any questions before we go in? Okay, do you have something? All right, at this time, Sue, we will entertain a motion. Thank you.
I move that the board accept with regret the resignation of Nick Walco, and authorize the town administrator to hire him on a per diem basis, if it's possible, to help us through the cleanup.
Second.
Motion's been made, second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show that's unanimous. Do we need anything else on this matter, Mr. President?
I do have one more thing.
Well, you're pushing it.
I know I am. And just wait, this one's gonna be a
I'll
killer.
tell you why I'm allowing it after, all right? Go ahead.
This one's a killer. I would respectfully ask the selectman to withhold $10 from his paycheck so he can buy one of these. Every time I hit him up, he doesn't have money.
There's ATMs around.
You think I have an ATM? I don't even have a debit card. I have
So,
to ask for coffee money every week.
I think that goes without saying that that'll be taken care of.
Thank you.
But I would also thank you, is I went up and I didn't know if the other members would come, so I had posted just, so we're covered. But anyway, but I have to tell you, you people put an immense amount. I'd be impressed if we were paying you high salaries for what you did up there, all right? The presentation, the work. If you were paid employees, I'd be thrilled, all right? And you're volunteers, so this town is so lucky, and when people long after I'm gone and everything else get to use a natural resource like the Squanicook River, it's going to be, it's things for people to do in the town. So thank you for that.
I have to tell you, everybody I've talked to is thrilled that this is finally happening.
Absolutely.
It's been something that the whole town has wanted to have done for a very long time, so.
And I usually try to get out of extra meeting sizes because, I have other things going on, but anytime you're cooking the treats for these things, I will show up. Right. All right.
Great.
Yes.
One final point on the issue, and it was mentioned at the meeting 2 weeks ago, and I want to make certain that it gets televised coverage. Karen just mentioned this has been something that's been in the works for a long time. So you've had prior commissioners, whether it's been Jennifer Pettit or prior agents, whether it's been Leslie Gabrilska, we've had people for a long time that have been trying to get this to come together. So this group is finally wrestling it to the ground and making it happen, but there are people that have come before them that have worked hard on it as well.
Okay. Thank you. Nice team effort.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on. I'm only 2 minutes behind, so
Well, that's not bad.
thank you.
Better than we do.
2.2, Chief Bailey on a police department update. Chief, if you want to, you can either bring that chair up there or bring one of those, whatever makes you comfortable. Welcome. Thank you, folks, again.
Oh, yeah, right.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. You have in your packet 2 months' worth of my report. I apologize for the lateness of the June report, the May report. I want to speak more specifically, though, to this month's report, the July report.
I think Cindy's looking for one.
Yes, there is two. It's not in the packet.
You don't?
I just got it this afternoon.
If you get to mail, run out and make copies for that one.
That's okay, we can get the copies later.
Okay.
I can speak to it.
All right, thank you very much. That works for me. Is that okay with you, Cindy, too? Okay, thank you.
You won't catch my mistakes this way either, so. We have an upcoming event, police department, fire department, and other groups in town getting together on August 1st at the library from 6 to 8 p.m. August 1st is National Night Out Day. That doesn't sound right. And what that is, it's a national effort for public safety to interact with community members and groups, to bring folks together in a united effort to stop crime, address issues. So we've got a number of folks who have volunteered their time to come. There'll be a clown there, there'll be, it's right on the front of the thing, and even more than what's on your flyer. I got 2 calls on my way here for other groups that are willing to participate. So there'll be a lot of things for a family to do. They can interact with police and public safety officials, enjoy the evening, and there'll be a lot of displays on safety issues and how to better protect themselves, as well as have some enjoyment. I think it should be a great night. We encourage everybody to come. We'll have some of our police officers there to talk to and ask questions of.
What's the cost, Chief? It's free.
There is no cost.
There you go. I just wanted to get that out there. It's a free event.
And just not to interrupt, but Mr. Crowther, if we could get this up on the website and maybe send out a press release so that the papers might print all this. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Back to you.
I just want to touch on staffing. I have done that before. We still have 1 member out on medical leave. Don't have a set date, anticipated to be in the fall, I believe, but that's still being updated as his condition continues. We have a member under suspension, and we have a sergeant's position that remains unfilled. To date, all the shifts have been filled properly. Our specials and reserves have been helping along, and the officers have been taking shifts to help out as well. The administrative position is vacant. We have a group that will be interviewing folks next week for that, so hopefully we can fill that soon and get that position up and running. Samantha has stayed on a part-time basis to help us out, so she's been coming in and doing the payroll and et cetera from week to week. I would be requesting the board to have a discussion, a future discussion, sooner than later, but on readjusting the organizational chart in the police department and putting a new position, or actually it's not a new position, it's an unfunded position of deputy police chief that's in the books, on the books. It's just been unfunded for a few years. I'd like to fund that position. I would propose funding it by the unfilled sergeant's position, which, when you go back in time and look at the sergeant's positions, they generally are in the $100,000 range by the end of the year with all the extras or whatever. So I think the position could be funded rather easily with very little extra into the budget.
How many sergeants do we have?
There's 3 authorized, there's 2 currently working, there's 1 unfilled. And my plan would be to eliminate that 3rd position, the 3rd sergeant position, and reorg the command staff of the organization.
What would you do with the lieutenant's position? That would still be there?
Lieutenant's position will still be there.
Okay.
Yes.
So the only position is converting really
Is the unfilled.
sergeant to, and then creating or
The
funding
deputy chief position,
the deputy
yes.
chief. Okay.
Part of when the chief and I have talked about this, part of the thinking has always been that when you have command staff in a unionized environment, particularly in the same union group as the subordinate officers, it puts everybody in a weird position because you've got command people supervising people, and they're responsible from their job description to supervise and hold the people below them in the org chart accountable. But from a union perspective, they are brother and sister officers. It's also somewhat difficult to have confidential conversations about departmental issues, whether it's collective bargaining or budgeting issues, with members of the collective bargaining unit that you're at the table with. So when you have positions outside of the union and more in line with the management or confidential position, it gives greater flexibility to the chief. So this would in effect be a flex of one position from union to non-union at the end of the day.
And only consistent with my experience when chiefs come into other communities, some were my classmates or whatever, but it's very commonplace to come in, do an assessment, and to put management skills in that you've used from other places. So you need to form, it's very standard when a new chief comes in to put a structure in that works more efficiently. So.
And I took my time to do this. I wanted to see how things work. It's been several months, and I feel that this is the right fit. It's not taking anything away from anybody. It's just adding, I think, a level of expertise and oversight that the department should have.
It's all right. Do you want to do some more stuff, or can I turn to the board at this point? Whatever you. Do you have more stuff you want to say?
I do. I just have a few other things.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll come back.
Yeah.
That's okay? Okay. Okay with you, Sue? All right.
I'm continuing to look at the policies and rules and regulations. Once I have some more help, and we're going to dig deep into those, and we're going to go through them completely. Like I told you, we'll be doing testing on them. That's something that should be happening routinely, is that we test on our policies, everybody in the department. Oftentimes, departments will give people a stack of policies. They read them, say they're okay, and they never ask them again if they understand them. So to review them and revisit them often is important, especially the high-risk, high liability ones, to make sure that people are all on board with them. I've been continuing to going to meetings in towns. I trying to learn the processes in town, so the best way I find to do that is sit through some meetings. So people getting used to me at this point. They used to look at me funny, but right now they're getting used to me walking in on a meeting, staying for a while, and leaving. Recently had a meeting at the Neshoba Valley Regional Communications Center. There's a lot of monetary, budgetary issues there that are being dealt with. A group of chiefs on the committee are working on this. We're looking at how to go forward with this. The fire chief is involved, and he's actually leading the charge for Townsend. It is being addressed, issues are being looked at, but it has backed us up significantly in the process. So it probably is not going to be happening as quickly as everybody expected, although today we've started installation of cameras in the police department that will videotape 24/7 inside and outside parts of the department, and that will be directly through Neshoba Valley. They'll be able to view those cameras.
And that, I'm not to interrupt you, just so, I try to see it like, if I'm trying to follow it, so the citizens follow it, so the money to do that upgrade has not come from our budget, it's coming from...
It's coming from that.
Okay, that's just
that budget.
important for people to
Yes,
understand that.
It's not
So-
coming out of the police budget.
So these upgrades now to our system over there are coming from an outside source, not from the tax base?
Right.
Okay,
And
thank you.
one of the most important things that will do, it will allow us, when the front desk is not covered, to be able to assist folks who come in for help. People will be able to come into the lobby, to be able to communicate with Neshoba. Neshoba will be able to buzz them into a safe room if they feel that that's necessary, and give the police officers that are on duty time to get there. That's a common practice that's happening around the country, and it works really well. Luckily, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, the need is there.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, on the issue of the budget with the Regional Communication Center, there's been turnover in the last month. The director, Nathan, who had been there for the last couple of years, is no longer there. There's an advertisement that's currently on the street, so there is a recruitment underway. When the chief references budgetary issues, what they have discovered as the board, the operations board of chiefs and the admin board of town administrators or managers, is that it's not that the money doesn't exist, it's that grants that had been approved had not had any of the bills submitted for reimbursement yet. So it's a timing issue of getting the money through the door to be able to pay the bills, to get the vendors satisfied so they'll actually come out and continue doing the work. They have committed that as their priority, Townsend vendors will get paid first, because Townsend is the one that's kind of left hanging here. So that's evidence as of today with the cameras being underway, that those invoices have been being paid and they're moving things forward.
Thank you for that update.
Thatcher Kizer, who is the operations director for mass development at Devens, is taking the lead on this issue, and Tim Bragan, former Townsend TA, who's in Harvard now, has also jumped into the fray and is working on the finances.
Thank you for being on top of that.
It's important that this succeeds, and everybody knows that. Everybody's working hard to do that.
And just, I happen to heard a brief thing, if you could just do it, and I'll go to the board members here and use that. I've seen that you're very thoughtful and very methodical for professional standards, everything you've done. And you're trying to keep the officer's safety and the public safety, but one thing is that you are, just by positioning of staff, you put your administrative assistant downstairs so that people have a face when they walk up to without costing us any additional money. Well, that's a big deal.
No, that's happening.
That-
yeah.
well,
Yeah.
but that's...
I guess I didn't say that to the board, but the new...
Well, so I want them to know, and the public to know, is that you're putting a face when people come in there and walk, who has professional skills to help these people, and there also is that it just seems to be administrative, so just by an administrative move, you really increase the efficiency of that department.
One of the things I did when I started was I had a log, I created a log for the front desk, who was coming in and who they're coming to see. And more than half of the people that come into the police lobby are coming in to speak to the admin person. So it makes absolute sense for that person to be at that position.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I just thought
okay.
that was such an important thing, that you're basing all these reorganizations on facts, so thank you.
So most of the people coming into the police department aren't there to actually see a police officer, they're coming in to take care of some
More than
administrative
half license the
detail.
carries,
Something.
all the things that they do. Yeah.
Which, and we wouldn't know that if you
Reports,
had-
right,
Yeah,
for
that's
their
good to know.
requests.
That's
Yeah.
good management skills in a short
Yep.
time, thank you.
And now with the camera, once the cameras are up and running and being installed, folks that come in when there's nobody there will have access to speak to somebody immediately, and the officers can respond. I told you I do a lot of things, and I just want to tell you about one that was really fun last week. I met with the Townsend Rec summer program. About 35, 40 kids at the Spalding. And I talked to them about bullying and respecting each other. There's quite an age range, but I was asked to speak on that subject, and it went really well. There was some good questions, and you always wonder whether they get it or not, or they understand it, or they even are listening at that age. Today they had their summer scavenger hunt, and there was groups of them running through town and in town hall, and two of the groups were here when I was here, and I quizzed them, and there was at least two kids in each group that could tell me what we spoke about last week, so that made me feel pretty good. And
I'm really happy that they use the crosswalks. I'm really big on crosswalks. And I was coming through the center as the groups were coming through the center, and I said, oh, that must be rec, because they're gangs of kids. But they were all going through I don't know if they were supposed to go through so many lights, but they were doing the box, but coming through there and running to their next location. It was kind of funny to watch them.
the last thing I'll talk about is social media. We've got our Facebook up and running again and posting. It had sat dormant for quite a while. So we're trying to keep that updated. One thing that I did do, the town is, as you know, is looking at a new website vendor, and we'll be going with them. Our current vendor, we're paying about $4,000 a year because it included public relations, and they would write releases and things, and I shortly after I got here, I stopped that and just went to the web hosting, which is $49 a month, because it wasn't being used. I guess in the right place, it could be a great asset. They do a good job at it, but I felt we could write our own press releases and put our own things out there. So, and it seems to be working well. I don't know if you have any other questions or concerns.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to the board members, only because we have a lot to do tonight. But thank you, first of all, for coming, and we'll welcome you back here anytime you want. Sue, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Cindy?
I do have a couple on the deputy chief thoughts. Have we had that position funded before?
Yeah.
Lieutenant Parfit, was he deputy?
Dave Prophet was deputy
Okay.
chief when he left.
Okay, that's what I thought. Was he the only one that we?
I don't know the answer. I believe so.
Yes.
Okay.
That was created when Dave was here, right? He went from lieutenant to the newly created deputy chief position.
But the lieutenant position was vacant
Left vacant, right.
when he did that.
And then
They-
when Dave...
Both of them did not exist at the same time.
Correct.
Okay. So your proposal will have them both exist at the same time?
Right, but doing very different jobs.
Of course.
Yeah.
And also,
One less sergeant.
let me interrupt you,
Yeah,
Cindy.
that's fine.
But taking out of his existing budget, so he's just
Oh, right,
reconstructing.
yeah, okay, I
well,
understood,
that's a
that part I
board thing, you know,
understood.
it's-
I just wanted to
Right.
get it out there
No.
and for my own
Thank
input
you.
as far as
Helps me.
everyone else, that, okay, where is that, it's not a new idea, it's not something that we've never funded, it's been funded, and the
No,
structures,
and
you just...
when I look past budgets
Yeah.
and things, the vacant position pretty much would fill the new position with
Right.
maybe very little left.
Because the sergeant's position earns a lot of overtime, I'm assuming?
Because the overtime and...
The deputy chief will be
and those
salary.
things. Deputy chief would be salary.
And a contract, that would be a contract.
I would expect, yes.
And then on staffing, I remember somebody, we had,
We need to hire an officer, too.
there's another officer position
one
that's
officer,
vacant as well,
yes.
right? Because I know the school officer resigned, and then,
He's prior to me,
right,
yes.
but we haven't filled that position.
That's correct.
That's the opening.
And that's,
And then-
we're going to look to fill that soon as well.
Okay, do you have it posted yet, or no?
It's not been posted
Okay.
yet.
And you'll be posting it as a school resource officer?
No, as a patrol
As a
officer,
patrol?
yes.
Do we have a plan for the school resource officer yet?
I have a plan in my head.
Okay, all right, I won't.
I've got to have some more conversations with the superintendent. We've talked at length about it, and we need to meet again and make sure that we both are on board, and then I'll bring it forward.
You good, Cindy?
I'm good.
All right, just one quick thing, maybe you or Mr. Crowley can help me understand this, is you mentioned about you wanted to have a discussion, this and that, but am I wrong? And please tell me that you two could be going forward with this reorganization and just come back to us to hire the people since would that be how it would work? Because I would like this done sooner than later, or...
Technically, it's not a reorganization.
Okay, well, help me out, how would we get this
Because
going?
it exists in the organizational structure already, it's just not funded.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So we could do one of two things, is we could just leave the sergeant's position unfunded, or
My
Or
question
take it
is,
off the books.
how do we get your plan, get the board, how do we get this moving, instead of keep coming back? You've done the work here.
The chief
Cindy
has-
has a question again.
No,
The chief has the ability to advertise the position. It's an existing position within the organization.
Okay.
It's ultimately your decision to fill it or not. So he can go through all that work, and if he comes back to you and says, I have a recommendation for this position, you can say, no. So if you're inclined to go down the road with him, it'd probably be better for him to know that before he actually starts.
That's what I'm asking. And then we had to ask, we had to ask the members here if they support that. So I guess I'm looking for guidance, am I saying it right, how to phrase the question to the members here?
Well, just, do you support the concept, or do you want more time to think about the concept, or do you not support the concept? Because obviously you don't want to advertise, bring people in, and find out that the will's not here on the board.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn to Sue, then Cindy,
okay.
Sue, and Cindy, then me. Sue?
I think I'd like to hear more specifics about that, including what the responsibilities are for the sergeants. I understand that they do things like investigations and whatnot. And, you know, how the jobs would differ. And also justification in terms of the number of people that we're saying we would need, because when Dave Profit had that position, that was like, he was lieutenant at the time, and we ended up making him, giving him a different position. So it was an either or, it was not an additional. I would have a problem right now myself, knowing what I know right now, in authorizing an additional position. And without understanding what do those sergeants do, and what do you do if one of them is out, okay? Because what you'd be doing is down to two. How does that fill in? Because those folks can be pretty busy too. I don't want you to answer it now. I'm just saying this is where I'm coming from right now, having just heard this, that I would be hesitant at this point. I want some answers to some of those things first, please.
Thank you, Sue. Cindy?
Okay, my first question is, is your thinking that to bring back the same job description that Dave Profit had, or would you want to rewrite that job?
I would probably change it somewhat. It would be it's an administrative position, and it would be tasked with administrative functions. Now, going through what was there or what could be there, I'm sure it may be similar, but it would be specific administrative functions.
Okay, I think
one of the things that the department lacks is technology. And some of the technology we have, we're not using properly. So that person, in my mind, would oversee the technology, would manage it, one of the jobs of that person. The person would also be involved in policy writing. We want to be accredited. That's a goal. We're a long way away from that. That person would most likely be the person that led that charge to accreditation, state accreditation to begin with. But that's a long way away.
I know that was one of the major projects that
David started
was
working
working on that, and
right,
it
but
seemed to...
What he worked on now is four or 5 years old. So it's something that has to be revisited. There's a start there, but laws and rules and procedures change, so it's quite a task.
Yeah, I would like to, to see a plan, a structure, the organizational chart with some, in my mind, I'm picturing an organizational chart, but some of the guidelines of what you expect to, what duties you plan to add that the department needs, as well as shifting responsibilities without, I don't need to, I want to try to keep out of the weeds of trying to figure out what an officer's supposed to be doing and how many hours you're supposed to do it.
What's happening now is that the sergeants are tasked with being sergeants, answering calls, and being, doing paperwork and fleet and armor and guns and all of those things. They're tasked with all those jobs. Those are a lot of jobs to be tasked with, when really your job is to be directing the patrol division, being involved in that, and the safety of the community. So that the lieutenant's position, the lieutenant has done a lot of, from what I understand, that work, and would become more of a manager, facilitator for that side of the organization, as well as managing those functions that a lot of them are being managed by sergeants now.
So it gets the sergeants out on the street.
It gets the sergeants out on the street.
As opposed to, they're coming in the station too much to do
Right.
paperwork as opposed to patrolling.
Right.
And that's what-
Sergeants, street sergeants should be street sergeants.
working
and they-
supervisors.
And they should be supervising patrol officers that are out there. And sometimes that's happening because they have the luxury to do it, but a lot of time it doesn't, because they're the ones that are out there working as well.
Yeah, I definitely like the concept. I'm going to, just so that we have more to look at, more of what you're proposing on paper.
Right. I mean, I
And
can,
then- But I want to
put it
move on
into
it
a-
quickly. I don't want to
Right.
keep this going for too long.
I can put it into an organizational chart with tasks and what their responsibilities are, and a chain of command and all of that needs to be updated. I haven't been doing that because I've had to stop, but that does need to be updated.
Okay. Just two things. When Cindy brought up a point here, and the chief will know this from his professional, is that when he's describing about police officers on the street, as you just did, the largest employment, new hires of police in the history of the United States of America happened under the COPS program. And that entire came about, mobile day terminals and all that. That whole program was about officers on the street, not in stations. And so we need to get back to that. Is that, not that everyone, but he's trying to bring in professional standards that officers on the street sometimes have to be in, but you do everything in your power. Those computers that they can actually be on the street doing the reports out there. And so he's trying to bring what the rest of the world's done here. And I commend him on that. And so I understand that. I'm trying to talk the language that everyone else understands, is that this type of organization makes you more efficient, safer for the officers, but gets the officers where they need it the most, doing tasks that they're highly trained for.
And this size operation, the sergeants have to be more than sergeants. They have to answer calls. They have to do all those things. So some of the other tasks, because they have to respond to calls, they have to back up the officers, they have to do all those things, could be better handled at an administrative level, where the person has the full-time time to do that and not have to be out
And
chasing calls.
Not to keep going on, but the idea is that the sergeants are out there actually supervising. They would be believed to have a higher level of proficiency and training. So that helps in safety, also helps in liability issues, all right? So, and because we got to move on here, what I would say is that you've heard what the two board members here, and it needs some additional information.
Yeah, I like it. I
Right,
just,
but here's the other
first I
thing
heard
is,
of it. That's-
I appreciate you coming forward. I would ask, if the board's all right with this, is that we get this done sooner than later, so we can, we have some acute issues we'd like to, through this type of forward thinking here, get done earlier. I would, if you wouldn't be opposed, I would like to have him come back within 2 weeks to us this time. No, okay.
I won't be available.
Okay. How about we get the information within 2 weeks? Start
Sure.
it. Okay. You know what I'm saying? All right?
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. So if it's all right with the two board members, we'll start getting more information here, and we'll try to make that a priority. So, and they like to decipher stuff, and so if you and Jim can start working on that, and sooner than later, Thank you for being proactive, not reactive. We
No,
appreciate
I'll
it.
put together an organizational chart, tasks and duties, and show how everything flows.
And thanks for being all around town.
So I have a question.
Sure,
on what you
absolutely,
just
sir. Go
said. Would we be asking him to come back that quickly?
No, we asked him to start giving us information within a couple of weeks, so you can decipher it, then we'll set up. Yes, well, I would think sooner than later.
It shouldn't take me very
I
long
mean,
to
you
put
could
this
give me a whole
together.
packet of information, but without the explanation, I'm probably not going to understand it
Right.
that well. So I would prefer that it be 4 weeks coming back to talk to us at length about it, okay? Because I think we lose something when we try to do things individually and look at it individually. We lose the input
Right.
and the conversation.
And I'm not trying to eliminate the, what I'm trying to do is for him to put together the concerns you have, get the package together, put it out there, and then we come back for the
And to
discussion.
be honest with you, I am concerned from a financial
Well,
perspective,
and
too.
that's, we can have that discussion when he comes back.
Okay, that's
I
one
can
of my
include that part
prime
of it into it.
concerns.
So, okay?
So packet of information
Yeah.
outlining his proposal within 2 weeks to be taken up at a board meeting 2 weeks thereafter. So
Sounds
that's
good.
4 weeks out.
Yep, that'd be our regular meeting.
I think we have a regular
I
meeting
don't-
scheduled for August something.
I don't need the 2-week lead time for the packet.
Well, I would like it. So would you like it?
1 week
Okay,
would
so,
make me happy.
no, everybody gets a packet but Sue, or do you want the packet just not gonna read
No,
it?
if it's, I just don't want it, I mean, that's asking him to do an awful lot
Well,
in 2 weeks.
he's willing to do a lot. He's
so-
done an awful lot to come here before us. He's got acute situations.
I'll get it done. I have no problem getting
Okay.
that done.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
not
you.
something that I thought of today.
So I guess everybody gets a packet, you know, all right?
Yep.
So thank you. All right, on to the next thing, Chief. Are you all set?
I think I'm done.
All right.
If you
Thanks
have any
again
other
for everything
questions
you do.
on either one of the
Yep,
reports,
and you and Jim will be working
happy to answer.
diligently, as always. Thank you. All
and
right.
I'll leave you, I gave you flyers. I'll put these on the table if anybody else
Are we
wants.
planning on going to this night out?
I don't even know if I'm around.
Okay, I'll be there.
Okay. Moving on to 2.5. Just a quick thing, Cindy was here when we used to do this, and we used to, at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, we used to bring department heads in.
Yep.
And they'd come in here, explain what they're doing, what the needs, their wants are, and I thought that was a good thing. Sue, I believe, was interested in the IT, so I thought that it'd be nice, we make the first one of the year that we bring in. It might be a little more comprehensive than the normal one. At the first meeting of September, I would like the IT to come in for a full update, whatever the members need at that, just let Jim know what you're looking for, and that is on the schedule for the first meeting in September, if that's all right.
Okay.
And then, if you, I'll just start scheduling through Jim, all the Jim sort of pick it, bringing the department heads in. I like the department heads in at least once a year and sometimes twice, just to come in and let the public know. I think we need to do a better job, let them know sometimes they're doing great jobs, and then just to talk to the board, have discussions about, you know, what we're doing. So we'll start, if that's all right with everyone, the first meeting in September with the IT director, and if you have any specific needs that you want to address there, just let Mr. Kryler know so he can prepare the meeting, okay?
Sounds
All right, Sue? Thank you. On to 3.1, annual appointments, see attached. Mr. Kryler, you have anything, or do we just start reading?
Nope, just that document you have, 3.1, there's Council on Aging, Ann Forsman and Beth Mockler, Fire EMS, Christian Grant Jr., Meeting Hall Gallery Committee, Karen Provo, and Diane Blankenberg and Alice Struthers. So it's not a long list.
All right, and how do we need this in a motion? Do we need to do all of them, or can we do it, make it simpler for Sue, or?
Oh,
You want mine right here? I have it right here if you like.
no, I just don't know why this is all.
Just gonna take a moment for Sue.
Apparently, this wasn't, that wasn't even here. I don't have it.
All right, can we, what part do you need? Maybe I can help you with it.
I don't
It's
have,
just the one page.
thank you.
You're welcome.
I move that the board appoint the following personnel: Council on Aging for a 3-year term, effective July 25th, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. Ann Forsman and Beth Q. Mockler. For Fire EMS Department, per diem firefighter paramedics for one-year terms from July 25th, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. Christian Grant Jr. For Meeting Hall Gallery Committee, a one-year term effective July 25th, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, Karen Provost. And for a three-year term, also for the Meeting Hall Gallery Committee, a three-year term effective July 25th, 2017 to June 30th, 2020, Diane Blackenberg and Alice Struthers.
Second? Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Do you need this, folks, here, or are you all set with this here? Thank you, Sue, for that. Moving on this time to 3.2. Reaffirm Chairman Clark as Board Representative for all collective bargaining matters. Sue, before you came on the board unanimously had made a motion and approved me to represent them in all collective bargaining, which I've been doing. And I just thought, out of courtesy, that we would reaffirm that vote.
Sure.
Any questions, Sue?
I have a question on it. Do we have any open contracts right now?
Yes, we do.
So are you in the midst of something right now?
Yes, I am.
Police department is in mediation.
Police department
Currently, it's
still?
ongoing.
And we-
Okay, so other than the police department mediation, we're pretty well set on...
No, I'll let Mr. Crowley.
There was a reopener for the supervisors union, wage reopener, that actually we had a first chat just today before the earlier meeting with Mr. LaChapelle. Beyond that, the firefighters only had a one-year deal. They've not yet expressed an interest to get back to the table, but that should be coming within the next month or so. So we've got two that are ongoing and one that was only a 1 year that should be opening again shortly.
So we're set?
Okay.
Yeah. Cindy, you have any questions? I would entertain a motion at this time.
I move that the board reaffirm Chairman Clark as the board representative for all collective bargaining matters. That doesn't sound right, not matters. Collective bargaining negotiations.
Well, sometimes there's, Mr. Crowley.
Yeah, the reason it wasn't as narrow as that is in the case of a grievance.
In the case of a grievance, I'd expect it would come back to the board.
And it does, but as the designated rep, when we're at the table, we're having discussions, there's an issue that falls outside. We've had 2 occasions where grievances were avoided at the table and never had to come before the board because we were able to clarify it at the table. So I just didn't want to be as narrow as writing it as negotiations.
Okay, as long as there's an understanding that those kinds of things do come back to the board.
So the contracts, just Mr. Chairman, the contracts across the board are clear that the only one that can resolve a grievance once it's real and filed are members of the Board of Selectmen.
And just a clarification, and I'll turn to Mr. Crowley, the professional. During some of the negotiations, a step was added to facilitate that so that we didn't have unnecessary grievances. If you could just address that was added.
Certainly. There was, the prior contracts had the first step of a grievance between the employee and the department head, and then it went directly to the select board. And I think you'd find it more common in other communities that there would be an administrative step before such a grievance would be required to be made public. Because as you know, as a function of the open meeting law, once a grievance comes to the select board, while it can be settled and discussed in executive session, ultimately it becomes public. To give the parties the opportunity to address it at an administrative level, the contracts have been amended this most recent go-around to have a step of an opportunity between the department head and the Board of Selectmen, and that being at the town administrator's level.
Thank you for that. So I guess I will entertain a motion if we're ready.
I already moved it.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, second. Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. Where are we now? 3.3, to reaffirm Vice Chair King as Board Representative for all financial matters. Also 3.31, appoint the Budget Post-Mortem and Process Review Subcommittee. 3.32, authorize Selectman King to serve as board member. 3.3, authorize the subcommittee to work with the accountant and the Collins Center. Mr. Crowley, could you just give an update on how we did this last year and how?
Sure. The budget before this most recent one, when it was being developed, it was when I was sitting as your interim. Cindy was selected as the board representative to serve on the ad hoc budget subcommittee. There was Cindy from the select board, and then Mr. Klein at the time was the rep from the finance committee. And subsequent to that, Cindy's been made the rep for all matters financial, whether it was the Collins Center information or liaison and working with the finance committee this most recent budget time around.
And was, correct me if I'm wrong, but was Cindy also in the same motion there appointed to be a representative in the screening process for the new accountant and the new tax collector?
That's correct. That actually, that predated, the first part of that predated my involvement. When I started here in
But that
December,
was a motion by the
Cindy had
board.
already been empowered with representing the board for the tax collector position, and then that was expanded to include the town accountant's position.
And when you came in, she had already been appointed and you worked with her for that?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Sue, any questions?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
For all financial matters, does that mean it precludes us from also being involved in any of the financial discussions? Because that's one of our prime responsibilities
Well,
as
it's a different
selectmen.
option. We would set a meeting and we would do what we do here.
No, this is just when we have the subcommittees and when there's issues that don't require the board to actually have a meeting. Because if we all went, then we'd have to have a meeting every time we needed to talk to the accountant about something. But this is basic things, the same things that were going on when you were on the board before. Because when I was on the FinCom, I served with you on the budget
That's right.
committee, subcommittee, and you were the selectman's representative. And there's all kinds of, well, particularly with preparing the budget and the things that the Collins Center worked with us on, is developing the planning for budget season. And the whole board doesn't need to get involved with the minutia as you're getting there. That those are meetings that are happening with department heads, with the FinCom, and to getting the work moved from one department to the other. Nothing that would, this does not preclude the Board of Selectmen from taking any actions or any votes. As the representative, I would come back to the Board of Selectmen and keep the board updated with the town administrator as any involvement that he might have. But it doesn't take away at all the board's prerogative on what's going on at all.
Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
And it really, one more thing, it does help quite a bit. I know a few years ago, when I was on the FinCom and you were on the board, we had, there was, before we had, which was well before we had the Collins Center in to help us on developing the budget and having the budget hearings. This past year, we had budget hearings. But when I was on the FinCom, we had, I know that there was one year that was, the FinCom did not get any budget information until the week before town meeting, and we had to make decisions. But this representation gets the board out on the street and gets the committees going in December and January when they're supposed to, so that communication is happening, as opposed to the board trying to do everything from here. And we're able to get things done in a more timely manner. But that doesn't take anything away from the board. The votes on everything will still happen in this room.
I want to put a different slant on it, or I'm coming from a different place. These were originally some of the items, well, it started out to be some of the items that I had asked to speak, to have on the agenda. They've morphed into something a little different. So I just want to be clear on what we're looking at. I have absolutely no problem with, with continuing the same financial team, is what we called it, consisting of the TA and a member of the board and the accountant and tax collector and assessor, okay? But And that most definitely, I think, should continue. So I would say that's one thing. But it wasn't clear because it says for all financial matters. That's extremely broad, okay? So I would rather that say to continue her role as the board representative on the finance team.
All right, one second, so we'll move down the list. Sue, do you have any thoughts on that at that point, Cindy?
I mean, that's fine.
I think this isn't meant to be anything different than what it is and what it has been.
Okay,
So
and
if that makes it clear, then that's,
I'm just clarifying.
So let me have a point here. So what do we agree for? That it's
Changing the word matters to team.
Okay, are you good?
Sure.
All right.
It's financial team.
All right, let me just go a
For
step at a
financial-
time so we
for
move
the
forward
financial
fairly. So,
And I mean, I'll make that
So just one
motion.
second, please. All right, because we're going to try to get it all done. Thank you. I appreciate your input here a lot. So you guys are good with change that to team?
Yep.
And Sue, you are, obviously, and I am. So, okay, the next thing you want to bring up, Sue?
Okay, on the next one down, appoint a budget post-mortem and process review subcommittee. I'm particularly interested in that, and that is from my own opinion, as well as, in my observation, as well as people had brought forward to me and to you as well, that they thought things could get tightened up a little bit in terms of how we did the budget process and how, I mean, it was still not getting things to the finance committee. There's still not communication that needs to happen there. And I know that because it started when we had gone to the same meeting, the school committee meeting, okay? And there was a lack of information that we were hearing from the other towns. We weren't at the same place. We need somehow to be able to do that. So I think it's a matter of looking at our new policy in terms of the procedures that we go through and what's the timeline, reviewing that, and maybe bringing in a couple of members of the community that have shown an interest in that, or members of even other boards or whatever. Because it's not that it didn't work, it's that it didn't work as well as I think it could. And I'm simply looking at it from a process improvement standpoint. And I'm very interested in doing that. And this is just background as to why I had originally asked for these, so that you understand what I was looking for. On the next one,
Can we just discuss one at a time, go down so that we stay on track here? Do you have any thoughts on this here?
No, I'm just trying to figure out where this falls outside of the original motion we just did, or the discussion we just had.
And I just have one question. I'm going to go back to Sue here because I think she's ready. If you could just help me out, sometimes you'll say people. If you could just identify to me who people are so I can follow the conversation. Sometimes I can't follow it. So
what do you mean?
You said, well, people have come to me and Jim
Well,
about this and that.
one-
And I just need to know, are people the finance committee or the people of this?
I heard it from two members of the finance committee.
That's all.
I heard it from
Can I just finish,
several
please?
members of the public.
I'm not asking, what I'm trying to say is for future discussions, so
Yeah.
that we can be efficient here.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes if one of us says, people told me, well, I can't follow it if I don't know who people are. So whether it's not about this issue, but if it's about land use, if I would just ask respectfully that you identify who's the person who told you, so I can, okay, that's a person of knowledge or not knowledge. That's all I'm asking. It's just a
Well,
clarification.
I'm fine with that, and I'm sure
Thank
Carol
you.
Wright wouldn't mind my mentioning
I'm not
her
asking-
name
again, that's-
either, okay?
So
Because
you're getting off the track here. All I'm asking you is, in the future, we have discussions, so I can give the attention that you deserve, that instead of saying people, just, briefly, I don't need to know everything they're doing, this group, so I know who we're talking about. That's all. It's a small thing. It doesn't need to become a big thing. Are you all set, Cindy, or to go, let's go to the next thing?
Cindy had a question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to kind of back up to how the agenda is written out. And,
I think that's part of the problem, Cindy.
yeah, and I'm thinking that might be easier, because 3.3 is broken down into 3 additional parts.
Okay.
And I think having the 3 parts, maybe it's confusing just to me, or maybe it's confusing to everybody, that I'm not quite sure why we have 3.3.1, 3.3.2, and 3.3.3. Why isn't it just 3.3?
And
Because
maybe
I-
that's I try to find a compromise.
Oh, okay.
So let me explain here is, I tried to make it efficient here for the agenda,
Right.
but I tried to listen to all members. So what I tried to do is, we can have discussions and follow legally if I put overviews here.
Right.
So I'm trying to give you a piece of the apple, Sue a piece of the apple, and maintain the thing here. So if I did that,
I'm
I'll
just-
work on making that better.
I'm just confused as to having multiple committees
I
to
usually don't do that,
the
but I
very
did that
same
out of
thing.
preference to Sue.
Yeah, I'm just don't, you know, if there's a finance team, why is another team doing some of the budget process and the budget
Right.
and the subcommittee to work with?
And-
So the finance person, the board member representing the finance team is not going to work with the accountant in the Collins Center. That would be part of the whole purpose of me being appointed as the
normally,
rep. So I'm
normally, like in
somebody
the-
else is going to do that?
In the past, that's how I would have put it, but I was
Okay.
trying to give some...
I understand.
I was trying to give some deference.
All right.
I try to find middle ground
Okay.
to what we've
Right,
done in the
okay.
past that's worked so well, but also to give Sue some of the things concerning. And I thought this would give her an opportunity in a fair discussion here to bring her points.
So could I make a suggestion? We just talk about how we're going to handle financial stuff, because these are the different things within financial stuff.
Well, I mean...
Okay.
Well, so...
And I appreciate you're trying to do that, because you did listen to what I was saying. and-
Positively did.
And tried to do that. I do appreciate that. So one thing is, if I may, okay, one thing is the finance team. Cindy, as far as I'm concerned, keep going, okay? That's the finance team, all right?
But if it doesn't include budget
That's right.
postmortem process and review subcommittee, and if it doesn't involve working with the accountant and Collins Center, it's an appointment in name only.
And here's the deal, is that I put this on out of respect to what we've been doing, and we were in financial crisis, has worked in the last year. So I was just reaffirming to continue with this.
Okay,
That's
but
what I thought this was.
That's my point, it's working now, we were in financial crisis, it's working, and all I was doing was allowing it to be reaffirmed.
I'm looking at the budget postmortem as a whole separate thing, okay? It should not interfere with business as usual, which is what you were talking about, okay? It's in addition to business as usual to have a team of people that would be appointed as a subcommittee to look at what worked and what didn't, and bring it back
To who?
to the finance team for one, and to the board as another.
So I just don't understand why we wouldn't have the FinCom and the finance team be the ones looking at what worked and what didn't work. If somebody that's not on the FinCom, not on the finance team at all right now, separate people are going to try to figure out and say whether or not the budget process, which was done in different meetings, it wouldn't even be, you know, it's not like it's been done, you know, with a camera going, that it's people that weren't involved, aren't involved with financial matters in the town at all, are going to be out and deciding whether, doing a postmortem on a budget that they haven't even seen except at town meeting.
You're taking postmortem too literally, and it might be my fault.
Well, you said you wanted to bring
I'm
in,
talking-
you said you
Yes,
wanted
yes,
community
Time
members.
here, just let me- Wait, just let me a second, we're gonna move on quickly here, because I wanna get this done, so last two.
Very briefly, Cindy's point is, if there's a finance team that is the finance committee, a member of the a member of the finance committee, a member of the select board, the TA and staff, that they would be the logical body to do those sub-tasks. Your point is that there are other people outside of that group that would have valuable input. I heard from several people as well that we should have done the budget document differently, more
My
expanded.
point.
So those types of
My
things.
point.
I think there's a way of doing both, which is, you are that subcommittee, but on the issue of budget postmortem, invite those people that we know to come to that meeting and present themselves, present their information. They're not a part of the committee because, to Cindy's point, they're not involved. They don't have the internal experience and knowledge with how it was built, but their input is valuable. So they would come to the existing subcommittee we have, which is the finance team.
And I'd like to add one more.
Or even just a letter.
All right, folks, we're gonna do one more thing, and then we're moving on, all right? So we're gonna take a look at it.
Well, I don't think it's fair to rush us through this. And
First
the
of all,
reason I'm
wait,
saying
I'll ask the
that,
whole board, first of all, if they think they're being rushed. Cindy, are you ready to do a motion at this time?
Yeah,
All right,
I mean,
I'll
I don't-
entertain a motion. No one's being rushed, so,
I feel I'm being
and
rushed.
that's duly noted. But I've done
Okay.
everything in my power to put your issues on here.
Finance is one of our major responsibilities as selectmen.
And guess what?
This is
The la-
not something that can be shortcutted.
And you're right, dear. And let me say this, for the last 2 years, everybody's killed themselves to bring back
I
financial
don't
credibility.
care about what
Well, I
happened in
care
the
about
past.
it. Well, I do care about
Well,
the
the
past, 'cause we
Collins
learned.
Center coming in here was a major thing. We
They're
got a
free.
grant from the
Free.
governor's office to get them
I
in
know,
here.
I
We've
know.
changed our
And
entire
you know what?
process, and it's
All
working.
I want-
This is not,
We're doing
we're
best
not gonna
practices
look at
now.
things in the past.
We're not going, we're doing best practices, and I want to continue. I'll take a motion at this time, if you want to make it, Cindy or Sue. Who wants to make a motion?
I am not going to make a motion unless you let me finish my concerns. One of them is orientation for the new selectmen on board.
That's not on here.
No, it is. That is what I
Sue, you're out of
asked
order.
for.
You're out of order. I'll have a motion on this matter, please. Thank you.
I asked
Cindy,
if
can I have a
I
motion?
could be oriented into the Collins process. I want to see how does that happen, where does the data come from? I am a new selectman and I did not get that.
Well, that's
what
between-
I'm asking
We had budget
for.
hearings that were public.
I
with the
came to
FinCom.
one, but that wasn't at the level that I'm interested in. I'm a new board member. You're asking me.
We could get to that. We
But
can get
that's
to that.
all I wanted, and it got written totally differently. I'm not trying to take that away.
3 minutes ago, Sue, you thanked me for including your things. Now you say I'm not doing that. I can only do the best we can. I'll take a motion at this time to have Cindy King continue the excellent work she's doing.
Are these items not, I thought these were lifted directly from your emails, Sue, so I
The
apologize. if they're not.
original email that I sent Jim, I would like to be oriented into the process for the Collins
I have no
Institute
knowledge of this.
stuff.
I have no knowledge of this.
That's the first I heard that.
I don't know what you're
Well,
talking
that's
about.
But we can
because,
definitely get to that, no problem.
Absolutely.
and that's, let me just at least get that out. That's
Sue,
what
no
I'm
one's
looking
denying you.
for.
We welcome you to get updates to come up to speed. We welcome that. We encourage you so you can be part of the team here. Anytime he's there, town council's there for you to get any updates so you can be part of the conversation. We would do everything in our power to include that. I had no knowledge what you're talking about. At this time, though, please give us a motion so we can move on. I'll make the motion, second thought. I make a motion that we affirm Vice Chair Cindy King as Board of Representative for all financial team, for our financial team.
Just to make sure we're staying, I don't want to violate any possible process of having a chair.
The chair can make motions.
Chair can make motions.
You can?
I already checked on that.
Can I
I
ask,
usually try not to, out of fairness to the board, but in this case, I'll make a
will
motion.
Sue make the motion without having Gordy
She
have to?
already said no, but will you make a motion or not? Sue? It's up to you. You don't have to. I don't want to make you do anything you don't feel right about. I'll make it if you don't want to.
I would like to make 4 separate motions.
There's a motion on the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. All right, I'm going to stay with the
Okay,
motion.
So the motion on the floor was to reaffirm Vice Chair King as board representative for the finance team.
Second.
Motion's been made and moved. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Cindy? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let the record show it's unanimous. We're moving on to 3.4 at this time. Thank you.
We didn't vote on any of the other stuff.
I don't think we are. I think those are,
We are not going to
well, I'm not,
appoint-
you want to make a motion? I'm not.
I move to appoint a budget post-mortem and process review subcommittee to consist of 4 members. 1, a board member. 2, a member of another elected board. 3, a person from the public. And 4, just a general volunteer, to look at what was presented as a budget at town meeting and what might we do differently this year.
Okay, the motion's been made. Do we have a second? I believe we don't have a second. Do you have another motion you want to make on the next issue?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll move on to 3.4. As per our 16.10 on the chairman's of the board's responsibilities, to make liaison assignments and assign overview responsibilities to board members. At this time, the chairman is using his discretion at this time due to executive session matters, not assigning anyone to at this time to the IT. That'll be handled by Mr. Kryler, and he will come to the full board with any stuff he needs. All right, I'm just making that announcement.
I'd like to say that
One minute, Sue. Yeah, absolutely. Let me just recognize you, please. Go right ahead, Sue, please. Thank you.
I would just like to say that is not the chairman's discretion. It's always been voted on by the board. I have no problem at all voting on that until whatever issue you're talking about is resolved, that be left off of everyone's list. But that is a board vote, not your discretion.
Well, at this point, I will ask Ms. Merrill if you get a copy of this, just to be fair to the, but I'll give this to Cindy to look, and then to Sue, if we get a copy of this, please. And it says that the chair will make the assignments, and that the board can either agree or disagree with the assignments. I'm choosing not to make an assignment, and the reasons why are executive, and I don't know if you know why they are or not. I requested at the last meeting that you find out why they are, so I don't know if you've done that or not.
Well, the reason I haven't is because basically that's a serial discussion.
Actually, I had a talk before this meeting with Town Council, Mr. Jenkins, and I specifically said what I said in the open meeting, and the other day, he told me positively not. So we'll have no further discussion about that, please.
Again, I'm not getting updated on things that other board members are updated on. I would prefer that we have a short executive session at our next meeting to talk about whatever issue this is, so that we can all talk
All
together.
due respect, Ms. Lizio, the full board has been updated on that,
I'm sorry, I have not.
and you've been given the opportunity to make yourself available. I can't make you get updated or not.
I will not.
Here's this if you would like that, please. And can we make sure everyone gets a copy of that, please?
That's the policies and procedures on
Yes,
the...
I'm sorry. 1610, it says it's responsibility. Just make sure the Sue and, actually, I'll give you mine. Just, thank you very
And
much.
actually, did we get Sue the policies and procedures?
Yes.
Okay. Because we made some changes to some of them.
Obviously.
And Mr. Crowley, I'm sure you are, but please, and I'm not, but I think whatever.
Who made changes to what policies?
Policy, we reviewed...
The board made changes.
The board did,
Oh,
yeah, no.
I heard he.
No, we, I said we.
So, whatever appropriate means, if
Yeah.
Ms. Lizio has any requests for updates and stuff, please facilitate that, all right? Thank you.
Yes.
I know you have, but officially I'm asking, and if Cindy too, is that as you do when I first came here, I made myself available, and I was completely updated by myself, by council and all that. So let's please make Ms. Lizio fully informed.
On that point, and there's only one point that I believe that Ms. Lizio has not been updated. She expressed to me what she's just expressed to the board, which is that she would feel more comfortable that it be an update given to the full board, given that it's executive session privilege, that it be done in an executive session.
And the problem with that is that if it is correct me if I'm wrong, if we make it an official meeting, then notice may have to be given to people.
Correct.
That's right. So we're going to follow the law here, all right? And, thank you. All right, we'll move on now to 4.1. Review, comment, zoning board mandatory referral referencing 199 Wallace Hill Road. Renewal of accessory apartment special permit. Do we have a motion or any questions on that? Any questions? Sue? Okay, we'll take a motion, please.
I move that the board accept the zoning mandatory referral report with thanks and no comment. This was on the 199 Wallace Hill Road renewal of accessory apartment special permit.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sue, aye too?
Aye.
Thank you. Let the record show it's unanimous. Sometimes I don't hear, I'm sorry. I have
That's
to
all
ask Cindy too.
right. I was
sometimes.
reading the next one.
Thank you. 4.2, review, approve, option to extend contract for Shattuck Oil for delivery of number 2 fuel, oil, unleaded gasoline, and diesel fuel through June 2018. Do we have any questions? No, Cindy, Sue, no? I would entertain a motion at this time.
I move that the board approve an option to extend a contract for Shattuck Oil for delivery of number 2 fuel oil, unleaded gasoline, and diesel fuel through June 2018.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. 4.3, Review, discuss Chapter 61B, right of first refusal, Bayberry Hill Road. Mr. Kryler, do you need to give us any information on this before?
It is self-explanatory when you look at the memorandum. The property is a first right of refusal for property located off Bayberry Hill Road. Assessor's map is 9, Block 33, and a copy of the notice was included. Option 1, if the Town Properties Committee does not recommend the town pursue the option, you would sign the attached form. And option 2, if the Property Committee does recommend, they would report back no later than 35 days from the date. And you have in your packets the letter of notice from the property owners of their intent to sell, including the required executed purchase and sale agreement.
Sue, do you have any questions?
No?
Cindy, do you have any questions? I would,
So what are we doing?
we're going to...
Considering whether you want to exercise your right of first refusal to purchase at that price, or waive your right of first refusal and allow the purchase to go through.
So has any other committees recommended anything? Does Town Properties or anybody want it?
There's minutes included in your packet from the planning board,
Okay.
Oh,
from
thank you.
conservation. that
So the answer is...
they
Not
did
not interested,
They're waiving.
All right, thank you, though, that's a good
and
question.
everybody waived it. Okay, so
All right,
if nobody wants it, I'm
all right,
happy
so
not
I
to
guess
buy more
we'll
property.
entertain a motion at this time.
Jim, how's that need to get worded?
Motion that the town waive its right of first
Waive,
refusal
okay.
option on Chapter 61 land, Assessor's map 9, Block 33.
I move that the board waive its 61B right of first refusal for Bayberry Hill Road, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, Assessor's map 9, Block 33.
Assessor's map 9, block 33.
Correct. Off Bayberry Hill Road.
Yeah, I already said Bayberry Hill Road.
Second.
Thank you both. Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Kelly, do I, or the board need to be signing stuff on the last two motions?
Yes, you have,
All right,
we can sign that.
Or do we have to put that in the motion signing on session or not? Do we sign it now? I'm only asking.
No, you're authorized to sign,
All right.
based on the vote.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting it right. Thank you for your assistance. 4.4, discuss assign Board of Selectmen's rep to the Regional Agreement Subcommittee. Mr. Crowley, can you explain this to us?
Certainly. The school superintendent, and on behalf of the school committee, has asked that the board designate one of its members to join the Regional Agreement Subcommittee, a subcommittee put together, as is required, to review the regional agreement between the three towns.
So you're saying we're looking for a representative from the Board of Selectmen?
Correct.
All right, so first things first, I'm not interested. Sue or Cindy?
I'd be glad to do it.
All right. Guess what? We'll take a motion. Cindy, would you make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Sulicio as the BOS rep to the Regional Agreement Subcommittee.
Second, motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, let it show it's unanimous. Thank you, Sue, for taking that. 4.5, to approve sign road opening permit, Unitil 43 Maplewood Drive, new gas service installation.
I move that the board approve the road opening permit for Unitil service at 43 Maplewood Drive for new gas service installation.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Let the record show it's unanimous. Just a little note on this here. I think Cindy knows, but sometimes I forget. Sue, I don't know if you knew that we reviewed all the fees in town to see that we were consistent, and we were consistent with the gas with other towns.
Okay.
But one area where we weren't consistent was in solar farms. And I don't even know if you were here or not, but with Mr. Hanks, who was here earlier, Mr. Kryler, we changed that. So for homeowners, it's still very reasonable. But for solar farms, I think the town's getting an additional, I don't want to say the wrong number, so don't get excited, but it's like $30,000 instead of $150 we're getting.
Oh, geez.
All right, is that correct, Mr. Kryler? Please.
I don't have the exact numbers. It
But
actually,
close.
it predates my involvement as
But
well, but it did get increased significantly.
And I will tell you, that's where I made a request to the department head, and I didn't think I was going to hit a home run.
I know we were talking about fees recently.
Yes, I'm always on that, just to make sure that
I think,
we're
yeah,
fair to the
Richard came in,
people,
yeah.
but that we're consistent with other people. In other words, if someone's charging you $2,000 another town, we're doing it for 100, well, homeowners are different to me, but if, people who are coming in here making money, working here, let's be consistent with everyone else. So anyway, Mr. Hanks, I want to give credit to him. Because of him, we got $30,000 in our talk about budgets instead of 150. So kudos to Mr. Hanks for doing a good job. Thank you, Mr. Crowley, for reminding me of that. Thank you. Next thing is 4.6, Highway FY18 Material Bid Contract Extension Recommendations. Anything we know?
Is that new one? that-
Yes, it is. I have a copy if you need one, Sue.
It's here
It's right here if you
somewhere.
want to staple.
Under, I got it.
All right, sometimes you have so much papers, it's hard to
Yes,
find
I
stuff.
know.
You have any questions before at all, Cindy? Okay, Sue, you ready?
Do you want them all read? Yes, okay.
I don't care as long as it's correct. Do we need to read them all, Mr. Crowley?
I think you do.
It'd be good too, yes.
All right, thank you for that.
I move that the board approve the FY18 material bid contract extension recommendations. Reclamation, All States Asphalt Incorporated, in place per square yard, $2.07. Bituminous Asphalt, PJ Keating Company, in place per ton, FOB. In place per ton is $68, FOB is $65. 3, crack sealing, Superior Seal Coat, per linear foot, .34, 34 cents. 4, milling existing road services, Lazaro Paving Corporation, per square yard, $2.02.
12 cents.
Second.
12 cents, I'm sorry.
12 cents, okay. Second, motion's been made and second, all in favor? Aye. Let the record show it's unanimous. Moving on to 5.1, which we already handled. Thanks to the board, let me move that up. And 5.2, Board of Selectmen's announcements, updates, and reports. Sue, do you have anything?
Just two quick things. Mr. Kreidler and I were working on the personnel policy, had worked on the personnel policy change for vacation stuff. I just wanted to let the board know that I had been in touch with several other elected boards. A lot of them weren't meeting right away, so we'll probably hear more toward the end of the, beginning of next month. Most of them were meeting the end of this month. The other thing was just to let the board and the public know the high school, the new high school is coming along absolutely beautifully. You get a perk being on the building committee, you get to walk through it every once in a while, and I got to walk through the last week, and it's really nice. So nice that I asked, can I please be there to see the kids coming in? The way that they're going to have an open house and let people tour it, but not until the students themselves have seen it first. And I think that's nice. It's their school. But I want to see the looks on their faces. That'll make the whole 5 years on the building committee worth doing. It's a very nice facility. I think the kids are going to be so excited about it. So I wanted to let you know everything seems to be on schedule. Kind of glitches here and there, but it's going real well. And I'm excited about it.
From the rest of the board, thank you for all the years of work you put into that, and it's very much appreciated. Mr. Kryler, if we could, I'm just keeping track of my stuff here, Cindy, I'm going to get to you. If I don't do it, I forget it. So, could you, if it's done, the work that you and Miss Lizzie are doing on personnel, could we tentatively remind me to maybe put that on for our meeting, our one meeting in August?
We're waiting to...
We're just waiting on the elected
But
boards.
she said in the next couple of weeks, so that's a month from now. If it's not, then do September.
Yeah, hopefully. Once we got the words back from the other groups, the question was, just to refresh your memory, a couple of employees had requested to be able to carry forward vacation time. The policy didn't allow it, so this is the request to
So
allow
when it's
that.
ready, could you let me know and I'll put it on the agenda? Okay? That's all. And then the other thing is, help me out, Sue and Jim here. Did Sue take on the task of access to town council? And
Yeah, we've
You volunteered for
worked
that?
on that as well, and that one actually is, I think, is ripe enough to bring back to the board.
All right.
That
Because
should be
because
fine.
that
All
would
right,
want to
so
use
what-
alone.
What I'm trying to do is, if I have advanced knowledge, is find a middle ground here, what to get, and get things done on the agenda without making it so we never get it done, especially in the summertime, all right?
You got it.
So, all right, thank you for that. And Cindy, what do you have? I think I have a
Okay.
nice handout here.
I
from
sent you, I gave both of you colored pictures of
Yes, very nice.
my proposal on the veterans parking. Something I started
It's here.
working on, I mean, not that it's a big
Gotcha.
project, but I started last year and I got tied up and I didn't get back to it. So now that I have time again, verified back with the veterans agent, Joe Mazzola, and he still thinks this is a great idea, is to designate a parking space for veteran parking only. And I gave you, there's 2 photos. One is a colorful one that I snapped a picture at another community, has a veteran parking spot designated, and then the black one with the more black and white and the light blue picture, I took that up at the Merrimack outlets. They have a number of parking spaces in the shopping center designated for veterans. So I'd like to propose, and I put a picture of where I think it should be a good place to put the veterans parking, which is just outside the back door, that first parking spot. Right now Harley's in there. I very often park there when I'm here. But it's that first parking space that's not designated, we have handicap or disabled parking on the other side, but that first parking space right there, to designate that for veterans parking, and there's no law, it's no enforcement of this, and no requirement. Strictly, if you're a veteran, you think you're a veteran, or you're coming in to see the veterans agent, you don't need veteran plates, you don't need a veterans ID card, you don't need anything. It's just a parking space that we put that sign up, and it shows that the town cares about veterans and that we're recognizing a special parking space for veterans to park there.
Sue?
Nice.
I would ask, first of all, I won't say where I learned this information, but I know that the 2 board members I serve here have a preference for the Marines, and...
I was in the Army.
She was Army.
But your grandparents...
Both of my mother and father both served in the Marines.
Yes, all right, so I did get it correct.
Okay.
And so what I'm trying to say is
You
here...
can't talk bad about them.
So here's the deal is, I know that you 2
We're
people
not
and the
going to
people...
designate this for Marines only.
Can I get through this, please? I'm trying to say something nice, all right? All right? I want to wreck my image, please, for a second,
Okay.
all right? What I'm trying to say is that I know in a situation that's different from here, I learned that you both have a high level of respect for those who have legitimately served our country. And so what I'm trying to say to you before we get off the track here, what you 2 like to do, as I'm trying to come back on track here, is that I know and I would thoroughly go along with this and ask that you maybe go to Ed Kuchar or something like that about pricing or donations. And again, I don't want this agenda too big because sometimes
I already have a plan.
we're burnt out, all right? Put it on when it's appropriate and we'll make this happen, all right?
Can we
can do it
go
right
for
now.
it tonight?
Just vote
And
for
then
it.
the
Oh, I
rest of
know.
it's,
All right.
get
I
it,
won't
making
get
it
in trouble
happen
by
is
doing that?
strictly
Nope.
logistics, which I'll continue
All right,
to work.
I'll entertain a motion by anybody, all right?
I move that we designate parking space or spaces.
One, just one,
Okay, a parking space,
that one,
that parking space that is outlined here.
okay.
As a veteran parking space.
And to authorize
And
whoever
to authorize
get a
them
sign
to get a
purchased
sign
put up.
and do
Okay.
it at Kukla, right?
Well, no, I've got a plan already.
Okay.
All right.
But, just-
How about we authorize the town
Authorize the TA
administrator?
to,
Yes.
to do it.
all right, second.
Motion's been made and second, move all in favor?
Aye.
I would just ask Cindy or Sue, either one of you, I would actually, if this works out well,
We can have an unveiling when it's done.
well, yeah, that'd be all right, but the other thing is, yes, I wasn't thinking that, but maybe we should think about maybe doing it at the senior center or something, but we'll see how it works here. You know, that's all, there's a lot of seniors, who are veterans, and guess what?
Well, maybe we could do it for all of our public buildings.
Right, so we'll start with this, and all I'm saying is come back, it's always a test thing, works out, and if we have to do any corrections, we don't have to do it everywhere, we just do it there. So what I said is, come back after this one works out, and we'll think about expanding it, all right? Thank you. All right, let's
have one
move. Oh, all right, whoa.
I have more.
This,
Oh,
Since we're doing
all
veterans
right, go
stuff.
easy, this is July, all right? We're supposed to be taking, go ahead.
Okay. I have actually two more
All right, go ahead,
items.
go ahead.
The other one, there's something called a Purple Heart Town that and I would like to get us, to work with Jim. I know I have friends that are veteran service officers in other towns, and they've made it's really quite an event to declare ourselves a Purple Heart Town. So I'd like to be authorized to work with Jim. To
Questions
make that
or
happen.
motion?
what's a Purple
Oh,
Heart?
go ahead.
That's, well,
There's an organization that officially has towns recognized, and you're authorized then to have the signs at the entrances to your town at all the roadways designate you as a Purple Heart town. Basically just honoring the residents in your community that are
recognizes
served.
Purple
and-
Heart recipients that we
been
have in
awarded.
Townsend, which we do have.
Okay, so I move to authorize Cindy and the town administrator to work toward getting us designated as a Purple Heart town.
Second, motion's been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The record show it's unanimous. 1 minute, 55 seconds. Thank you. Next.
Okay, one more thing. I don't know that if everybody in the world knows this, but effective this month, the Veterans Administration has authorized people that do not have an honorable discharge to get emergency mental health care at emergency rooms or at VA hospitals, which is a very new thing. But part of that understanding is that you don't have to have served in war, but people that have bad experiences within the military, there could be PTSD or things like it, and some of the impact of that is bad behavior, and they sometimes have to leave the military under negative circumstances, and they don't have an honorable discharge, and they're not authorized to get benefits. But the VA has recognized that, and they're now authorizing up to 90 days of emergency mental health care at VA hospitals, and during which that time, they are planning to not only help with emergency care for them, but to assess their conditions to see if they are in fact service-connected, and to work on making that happen. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, through the Department of Veteran Services, has asking the veteran service officers, the veterans agents, to assist anybody that comes to them to get that service. Those who don't have an honorable discharge can also come to see Joe to help, if they need to. I mean, they should just go to the VA, but if they need help with that. And our veteran service officers have always been available to assist those who have served, upgrade their discharges, or have them correction military records or an upgrade, which veterans would know what I'm talking about there. But and Joe is available, or any veterans officer is available to assist in that application process, which the Department of Defense has also started, which they started a couple years ago, to make that a more streamlined process. And the Department of Defense, that's where the applications would go to the services that the individual would have served. They do understand what the VA is also doing, is that sometimes there are reasons things happen, and that you can either be forgiven or review of whatever the cause is that someone had a bad discharge, that can be reviewed and upgraded. So there's a big effort on both the VA and the Department of Defense to assist those who have served. So, and Joe is available to help with that process. So I want to add that.
Thank you, and I would encourage both board members, anytime that they have knowledge of services that can help our citizens out there, that through Mr. Kryler and the appropriate departments, that we put that stuff up on our website, so that we eventually, we're going to talk about that in September, IT stuff, and that'd be stuff I would strongly suggest to the boards that you come with those ideas, so that find ways to improve that, to get the word out there. A lot of times, there's stuff out there people don't know about, so thank you for that, Cindy. Are you all set?
Yes.
Okay.
finally.
So I'm going to save all mine till September, so we get out of here, all right? But a quick serious note, just because sometimes people just come to do good things, and we focus sometimes on the bad things. And a good thing was that the circus came to town and made some money for the kids. But what I like to talk about is one of the three executives of the town here is that there was a last-minute clinch here that our facilities manager noticed that we could do harms to our septic systems over there, and by putting the 10 things in. So that could have shut it down. But the Shepherds, the TA, the building commissioner, everybody got involved and made all the work gone down the drain. They saved it. So I want to thank. I'm going to thank all the community help because I don't want to leave someone out. But I know for a fact the Shepherds said, "Here's our land, come and use it." That was a big deal. And also the chief, you know, you're getting out there and being around, and you might have had some people, you gave people a right to hear, and everyone enjoyed the night, so thank you for being there. But our department heads are showing up at more and more functions and saying, we're part of the community here, how can we help you? So I want to congratulate all of them. And that'll be it for me, all right? Wait till September, though. You got something?
Briefly.
Yes.
I want to offer an apology to Sue. I pulled up the email you sent me on those requests, and while I listed them very specifically, the first I did not list completely because you followed with to consist of 5 volunteers from elected boards, including 1 member, and you carried forward. So I apologize that I thought I'd lifted them directly, but I did not lift that one completely.
Well, it was put off from the last meeting too, so it got a little bit more complicated.
So what I will try to do is, my last thing here is, we're probably going to have a meeting, we'll work on that, one in August at the end. If people try to get in what they want to get on, realize it's a summer schedule, but you have concerns, I'm going to do everything in my power to give everyone a fair and moving forward orderly. But my job is sometimes, like some of the things here, we can't do updates because we're going to violate things and we have knowledge. So that's all I'm trying to do is that we do it correctly.
Mr. Chair?
Let me just finish here. So I'm going to ask that because I lose track, I'm going to ask that the week before we set, that you have some ideas, let's work this through. We've never done the past, but I'm going to try to work through it, okay? And Sue, go ahead.
Can we set a meeting now? Because I have some time that I'm not going to be available. I'd rather just us say, hey, this is the date.
I thought we did.
I thought we did, the last week of August or something?
I didn't get anything.
I thought we
on
mentioned
that.
it.
I thought at the last...
I thought at the last meeting we said
I put it on my
that.
calendar during the last.
I think the
meeting.
middle 2 weeks weren't good for anybody. The second, third week weren't good.
Just pull it up.
No, I don't have it. Let me just-
I've actually got the 22nd.
Does that work for you,
You
Sue?
would.
All right, does that work for you? All right, 22nd, yes. I'll make it work for me.
Okay. I'm putting it down.
I'm just,
Okay?
I'm asking you right now if it's good before we do anything.
Yeah, it's fine.
I got a good from Cindy, and I'll make, how about you, by the way?
I'm
You haven't taken much time off, so.
My time off's in my backyard.
All right, okay. All right, so let's set it for the 22nd of August, all right? And let's only get important things on, and then we'll get... All right. Can we move on to 5.3, approval of meeting minutes, please?
Mr. Chairman, on that note, there are a number that Sue wasn't in a member, so I know that in the past she's not voted on those.
Yeah, but the other thing is, I just got them this afternoon, and there's, I don't know, it was hard, I couldn't read through all of them, but,
So the 13th of June, 27th of June, and 13th of July are the 3 that Sue was a member for. The 13th, you had had some questions on last time, and those questions
and
were
you got them
amended.
fixed, okay.
So it's, basically, it would be the 27th and the 13th, and I think they're, of those two, one was just the transfers. And let me just see what the 27th was. Yeah, the 27th was a big meeting.
Can we just hold off on the 27th?
let me just ask Cindy a question in a second, but first of all, Mr. Kryler.
Yep.
Does that create any dilemmas if we're not meeting until the 22nd of August? If we don't vote them? Well,
That's fine.
Because we had an open meeting law violation
That's
for not
right.
getting.
They're out in draft
Oh, okay, so
already,
that meets the.
which
we're okay.
it's an effort toward, complying with the request. So if you want to hold off on the 27th,
Give
I'd
me
ask.
2 seconds here.
well, I'm not interested if, I'm not sure that it's.
Yeah, the 27th also had an executive session, which is ripe for release. It was the,
I'd be willing to take a 5-minute recess to give the people a chance to look it over, because would that be all
Oh,
right
do
with
we
you?
want to do it right now? Okay.
Well, I just think, I didn't get an answer that was 100%. I got one that was 98%.
Okay.
Am I right
All
or
right,
wrong?
I agree with you. I don't want another one.
All right, so at this time, I'll take a motion to take a 5 or 10-minute recess.
Second.
Move to recess for 5 minutes.
Second, and motion's been made, and second, all in favor? Aye, folks, we're going to take a 5 or 10-minute recess.
and let it be known that I typed that, so that's my type.
Oh, so fix it. I'm not gonna, I'll just approve everything, just fix it.
Sign.
I have to sign this?
Okay.
Okay. Calling Selectmen's meeting back into order at 7:51. Sue, do we need a vote on this? No, we-
Well, the first section.
No, I don't, okay, so,
To be back in order now.
all right, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, I'll make the motion on the
We're
first.
gonna make a
one.
motion on 5.3,
Can you give that to Sue?
and so we need you to sign there, I believe. You have the dates that are ours?
Yep,
Okay.
okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve the following meeting minutes: March 9th, 2017, March 14th, 2017, March 28th, 2017, and for April 21st, 2017, it's a regular and executive session meeting minutes,
And to release the executive.
and to release the executive session minutes.
Second it. Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Let the record show that King was yes, Clark was yes, and
Sue's abstaining.
due to the fact that she wasn't on the board at that time. At this time, I would entertain on these three here a motion, please.
Move that the board accept the minutes from June 13th, 2017, June 27th, 2017, and July 13th, 2017.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
5.4, review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
I move that the board review and sign the bills payable and payroll
No
warrant. Oh, okay, the bills payable warrant out of session.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Aye. With the record show it's unanimous. I would take a motion at this time.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. We are now adjourned. Have a nice summer. I got them right here. Here, Scott.
We're all set?
We're all done.
All set,
Thank
yeah.
you for everything.